Would you agree that pushing on the Epstein files is good?
Not
No.
necessarily.
Okay, my mistake. I shouldn't have asked the question. Okay.
Does Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's bill, is this doing more harm than good?
What good has it done?
Yes.
Oh my god.
What good has it done? Well, hold on.
Yeah, what
Well,
good
you can
has it
answer
done?
after. But what bad has it done?
arrested?
You actually have
You're
no
right.
idea. Trump just says, "Oh, we needed to fire them. They were bad at their jobs," and you just swallow it down.
I've been saying they were bad at their jobs
what
for 20
are
years.
You, some
so.
kind of pig?
Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today, I think we have a fairly serious topic. I wanted to talk about populism. Okay, that's something that I think is rising in American politics and has been for a while. And I got some thoughts, and I wanted to kind of bring some folks together from various backgrounds to talk about it. And so I want to thank all of my guests here for joining me, and we're going to get to it. I'll give you each chance to introduce yourself, give some opening thoughts on what you think populism is, what we should do about it, whether it's good or bad, ugly, what, and we'll just get to it. Let's start with Gibbs. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me everywhere as Admiral Gibbs. Excuse me 1 second here. Yeah, so apologize for that. Yeah, so basically with populism, it comes around every so often. Usually, I feel like, especially in American politics, it arrives when it's like a north-south transition as opposed to a left-right, where people feel like disenchanted with the current system, and we get people like William J. Bryan back in the day. We've had Theodore Roosevelt. Now we got Donald Trump. I think Bernie Sanders was a left-wing answer to what Trump is now on the right-wing side. So we have this every so often, and I think it can be good and bad at the same time. The reason why populism even exists is because it feels like people feel like they're being disenfranchised, and they're trying to get something done about it. And I think that's the case here. Trump has been put in office via populism, and now there's seeing some changes. Whether it's good or bad, I'm sure we'll get into the debate.
Beautiful. Glad to be here. Glad to have you here, I should say. We'll get into it as we go. Ice Beans, what are your thoughts?
Hello, everybody. My name, and I would say that there are a lot of criticism that can be levied against populism, and I certainly am people that can. But I will say that I can see there be a utility for populism, especially if it falls under some pretty strict guidelines, in my opinion. I think that regardless of what we think, whether it's bad or it's good, it is a force that needs to be reckoned with and hopefully could be harnessed. And we have to deal with it, basically, whether we like it or not. And so I would rather utilize it for my own ends than to just kind of let it flow in the wind and have everything happen to.
Yes, we can use the ring to save Gondor. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Joe
Sorry,
Lewis.
Gollum. Chill.
You're okay. Joe, what's up, brother? Oh, you're muted. Give him a second, King.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Joe Lewis. People know who I am. Joe Lewis with 2 O's on most socials. So when I think about populism, it fundamentally gets one thing right for me, which is politics requires conflict. There's no democracy without an us and a them. The idea that society can become a purely consensus-driven, purely technocratic, or purely neutral is unrealistic to me. Political struggle is permanent because people have different interests, identities, and visions for a society. I think populism also makes a critical mistake when it treats the people as though it is a stable, permanent category. In a robust society, the us and them is always dependent on the issue, the context and the material conditions that people are living through. The common people are not one unified political identity, nor should we want them to be. And for me, democracy should be understood less as procedure and more as governance. So the idea of like an ongoing activity of maintaining, cultivating, and improving the realities of people. That also changes how we think about leadership and antagonism. Political opponents are not enemies that must be destroyed, but contextual adversaries engaged through discourse, struggle, and debate. And finally, it might come up later, but I'll just preempt it now. Populism doesn't become, and it is not popularism. So just because something is popular or reflects majority sentiment does not automatically make it good, just, or socially beneficial. The role of politics is not simply, to mirror public desire, but to govern responsibility within a pluralistic and constantly changing society.
Okay. Thank you for being here, and we'll get into it as we go. Tolly, go ahead. It's been a while. Nice to see you, Tolly, by the way.
Great to see you, Wick. Thanks for having me. I am Tollybots, former co-host with Wick TV here, at Tollybots on Twitter, and I stream a couple times a week with Kay, a mod in this chat at Morally Neutral. So check us out over there. I think, like Ice Beans said, whether we like it or not, populist messaging is here right now with force. And so I do think we're going to need to make the best of it. I think it's understandable how political messaging, populist rhetoric is a useful tool. However, I think ultimately populism is destructive on a number of counts. Number one, it's a lie. It's almost never so simple and true that it is, that all of these elites are kind of working together to hold the regular person down. I think it inclines people towards learned helplessness. I think it just fuels grievances that lead very quickly into conspiracy theory. And so while I really see our political divide right now as kind of a fight between the populism and accelerationists and the kind of moderate, classically liberal institutionalists. And I'm rooting for the institutionalists in this battle long term.
Okay. Well, thank you for your support, and I'm glad to have it. Glad to have you here. Last but certainly not least, and at least until Dev finishes up whatever he's doing, Soypill, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually agree with what a lot of people were saying here. I mean, populism unfortunately does tend to fall in this category of thought terminating cliches. You'll have, well, here's the bad guys, here's the out group. Everything can be just simply defined into this box, and we're the good guys and they have the bad policies. And so long as we defeat them, then everything will be good. It is usually not that simple. Sometimes it is. And populism does kind of capitalize on a lot of good policy and good ideas. And sometimes that gets mixed in with the bad stuff. So I'm kind of with Ice Beans, where it's going to get worse. People are going to get more frustrated. The quality of living is going to go down. The wealth disparity is going to go up, and populism is going to get more popular. And they're going to be capitalizing on real issues that are affecting everyone. And I think so long as we are able to take what the actual grievances are and point them in the right direction, and make sure we're having nuanced conversations about, hey, like this billionaire or that billionaire, or like what actually is the systemic problem going on here, and not just, hey, if we just defeat Wall Street, then everything will be good for us, then I think it's totally fine. And I just want to make sure that there isn't this, rise of completely uninformed and silly, just let's go do good things movement that is unfortunately never going to work, and will probably disillusion people more once they realize that they can't just simply solve every world problem. But yeah, I'm bullish on populism as long as we use it well.
See, this is why I wanted to have this conversation, and I appreciate y'all being here. And Devil come when he comes. But I guess for me,
She said.
that is what she said. For me, populism is not really an ideology at all, right? Or it's barely one. It's more of like a rhetorical way of politicking, where you create different groups and say, these are us, those are them. And if the us succeeds, the people, the real people, then we will defeat the them. And it doesn't really actually do anything or fix anything. Does anyone disagree with that kind of framing of what populism is? That's my understanding of populism.
Well,
I think they
Except for the last part.
Oh, go.
I
One
think
at a
it's
time.
like super important before we move on to really like clearly, because we all said a bunch like different variations of kind of similar stuff and some deviations, right? So I'm just gonna like lay this out, and then maybe as people disagree, and it's like a place to start. Like, I think populism is just a stance. It's just an idea of an us versus them, which can manifest in a variety of different ways. It can mean the common person versus the elite. It could mean the American versus the immigrant. It could mean the the worker versus the boss. Like this idea of us versus them is the stance. And then that us versus them can mean a bunch of different things in political context.
But also, Joe, just to
Go ahead, Soy, then I speak.
Well, I just want to say, like, just to be more specific, like, there's lots of us versus them. You can have like populist fascism, but fascism isn't necessarily populist. So the idea of populism, I think, just to narrow down your definition of what you're trying to get at here, it's usually common people. Like, this is what everyone wants, versus like, oh, the elites don't have your interest, the government doesn't have your interest, the establishment doesn't have your interest, right? Like, that's sort of what you would narrow it down to, or.
I'm saying I mean, if there's a consensus there, we can use that as the floor. But if there's not, then we're going to be kind of stuck. You know what I'm saying? I agree with you.
Hold on. I'm not confused.
Wicked very confused.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Not yet. You might get confused later. Okay,
Frankly, he's the most confused guy.
I do get confused, right? But
That's kind of how I see it.
it's making
I vote.
it's making claims insofar as like populists
promises.
believe that
It's making
sure,
promises.
yeah, that
But like you can
right,
say
and
that Trump, for example, is a great populist. Is he a good governor? That is a different question, right? Like, is he a good
well, I don't think the two
leader
need to
or-
be.
yeah, I want
That's what
to
I'm
hear
saying,
from.
is that the concept doesn't
Yeah,
define.
I want to. Hold on. We gotta narrow it down a little bit. I want to hear from Tolly. If you're finished, then I want to hear from Gibbs a little bit, and then if Joe's satisfied with everyone's kind of definition here, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, good
Gibbs,
governance. I don't think is.
I'll finish up Tolly, then give
sorry.
it to Gibbs.
Okay, yeah, good governance. I don't think is like it's not a success is not a requirement for any type of political ideology or framework. I think populism is maybe more of a framework than just a rhetorical tool. Although people, I think, use it maybe cynically use the language of populism as a political tool, but it really is a framework of viewing the world. It is us against them, and so populists feel certain that they are on the right side of that. And I think maybe part of to what you're saying, Icebeans, is like I think a problem inherent in populism, and you're seeing this with the backlash against Donald Trump, is that once you get elected and get power, then you become part of the elite, whether that is, in ways that are true or imagined. And so you lose the support of the people, and it feels like a witch hunt essentially that never ends. And so I think I'm, as someone who wasn't as plugged in, in the beginning of the Trump era. I was still on the left at that point and didn't have the same concerns about populism then as I do now. I think we should all be really wary of populism, because I think once you let the rat in the house, it's going to be very hard to get it out.
I agree with a lot of what's being said, like probably like 90% of it. The issue is, I think there needs to be included some aspect with this us versus them. There needs to be some sort of like like crisis or some kind of like upsetting aspect to this. Like, right. So I'll use beef because I feel like that's the one I'm familiar with. Right. I think you could be populist and be like pro rancher, like, oh yeah, all the ranchers do it, and then do something like Trump did, where he's like going to go after the meat packers, and then at the same time he wants to appeal to his broader base, where he's like, okay, the Texas beef guys, they're gonna have to suffer while I bring in these outside stuff, so that my popular base will get it. So you can have like competing populist policy and ideas just within a single movement, because I think it's just like populism is just an answer to a feeling of disenfranchisement, and for the most part, from all the sides. That's why it's so nebulous. I think. I don't know if you'll agree or disagree.
I think it's clear. Like the reason why I ask this is because it all sounds like we're all saying the same thing. But I want to make sure the floor exists here. There's like a confrontation. We can hash that out, because it all sounds like you're saying that populism is a framework of positionally placing one group against another. If we were to just oversimplify that, is that a fair representation of what everything else said?
Well, it could be multiple.
mean-
Like that's why I use beef,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
the
like you would
base-
say
that's
the
the
ranchers.
base.
Yeah, no,
are
That's-
the
yeah, I
I'd say
think
that's a
without
base.
without nuance, is that the floor?
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
It
fair.
really is the people and the elite. Like I don't think
Well,
it
us
really is the
versus
people
them.
and the elite, and
Us
then
versus them.
sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's just an oversimplification.
We can-
It's usually elites are involved because otherwise it's like why
Right,
not
yeah.
blacks
Well,
versus whites
but I'm
back in
saying-
the 40s or whatever, right? Like that's not
Right, that's
populism.
not exactly, and populism.
reason-
A lot of it turns into different groups, right? So in populist movements, you see a sort of nativist sentiment that comes up, especially in right wing populist movements. And so yes, they see the elite as bringing the foreigners in. So it's still the people versus the elite, even though other groups might get stigmatized or
bastion,
scapegoated in some way.
$10,
what you're
just real quick, $10. My chat's weighing in. Okay, the last bastion says populism is just a framing device. Us, the weak, versus them, the powerful. This is why MAGA needs a deep state, something to blame. It doesn't provide a solution, just a boogeyman to be angry at. Thank you for the $10.
Yeah, the reason why I say us versus them, and then there's like different delineations of that, is because I think that's just a natural occurrence in society, right? So if you have a capitalist, you're going to have an anti-capitalist. A capitalist cannot exist by itself as a fixed point in
Yeah,
history. It's in
but
relation with everything else around it. Like
but
you
Joe, there
can't
has to be
have-
more to it than
Mhm,
that. Otherwise,
mhm.
everything's populism. So I
right,
do
right.
think the
No,
idea.
but I'm saying that like you're close. It's wrong, but close. Like to have you, what makes you is everything else that isn't you. So for instance, I'm a communitarian. I'm a communitarian because of the things that don't make me communitarian. Both are important, very important. So a capitalist is a capitalist not only because of how they define themselves, but how it's in relationship with everybody else. So the us versus them in terms of like populism and conflict is going to grow in different ways, right? Like when Gibbs was talking about beef, there's going to be people who are in support of beef cultivation or whatever sort of farming adjacent thing is. Like we'll say weed to oversimplify it. Like there are people who are pro cultivation of weed farmers, like pro weed farmers. The pro weed farmer must also have the anti weed farmer. Those two groups.
I don't
will
think that's really
emerge.
populism. The beef thing makes sort of
We
sense
agree
in
that
the way
the floor is us
Gibbs
versus
is saying
them.
it because
No, we didn't actually.
sure, but like the
agree on
history of the history
Well,
of
I mean, Tyler
populism
doesn't. So.
is like farmers movements and unions. So all of that like is actually in the historical record that in the depending on which sources you're looking at, that is the history of
Sure.
populism, certainly in America. But it is not just like
I'll give you
who are
a
interested
sure.
in cultivating this new.
I'll give you guys
Yeah.
a great example, just
That
real
didn't
quick. I
engage
get a
anything I
great
said,
example of how this like framework needs more nuance. Ukraine versus Russia is an us
Mhm.
versus them, but it is
Yes.
not a populist struggle. No one would call that issue.
It's agonism. It's an antagonist struggle.
Yeah,
I'd agree
no
with
one
you.
would call that a populism, right? Though you could have people who support Russia or support Ukraine use populist rhetoric to drive people towards their issue. A good example would be someone who says, the elites are trying to fund these foreign wars by sending our money that could be
Mhm.
used to help the people, the real Americans, help get us hospitals, schools, education, etc. But instead, those elites are sending it to Ukraine to battle Russia. On the other hand, you could say the elites are in bed with Russia while the real Americans are pro-Ukraine who stand in solidarity with the struggle of their brothers and sisters over there. And therefore, the elites are the ones that are in bed with Russia. And therefore, the populist position is to support Ukraine. Like it's a framing structure. And you can
Mhm.
kind of use that style of rhetoric towards almost
The groups-
anything.
The groups still
again,
exist.
I
Not to
don't
cut
think
you
it
off.
makes
But we
the point.
shouldn't.
I
But
do-
it actually is. Hold on, it is
I
more
had a-
specific though. Like it's a nebulous enough term, but it is more specific than Joe's saying. Because in the example that you used, Wick, the populists on the left and right did get together, and their opinion was that it is our elite spending money on Ukraine when we don't care about that. And it's so far away, and there's people at home that we should be helping. So they did coalesce around a similar message. It's the populists on the left and the right who were, whether explicitly pro-Russia or not, were anti-Ukraine. And I mean,
My
still are.
push
And
here-
I also
I'm-
want to point out.
Joe,
I also want to like.
hold on. I want Joe to finish his thought.
Yeah, my push here, which is why I want to move beyond the idea of elites versus the common person, which I thought people listened to when I said in my opening statement, is that these two groups, while they exist, they are not fixed points in reality. There's not a fixed pro-Ukrainian. There's not a fixed pro-Russian. These groups emerge, and different types of ideologies and philosophies of
Yeah,
thought are going to come in and out of those groups depending on the context of the
agree with you. In
situation.
fact, I've had this debate on Wix server about what is a conservative. I said a conservative in Athens would be different than a conservative in United States. I agree with you 100%. It's all relative.
Sure.
Here's my issue. I really want to talk about what Ice Beans and Soy brought up, which is like the tool aspect of this and whether or not it should
Mhm.
be tapped into, whether it's a good thing. I think that like whether or not people want to tap into it, it's going to be tapped into because it's so like people are having a visceral response to some like you said antagonistic, whether it's the elites, whether it's a perceived elite. And I feel like right now there's a very large group of discontent people that are the average American. And that's why we're seeing such a rise in populism. And like, what should we do about it? Right. Like, I kind of think that's where I would like to take this. I don't know about
Well,
y'all.
I mean, it's one of the limitations of liberal democracies. I mean, Wick has a lot of has a lot of reservations about Lacan move here, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here. But in society, especially in America, the question is, how do we deal with conflict? How do we deal with people who have views that are irreconcilable? What does it mean to work with somebody with conflicting ideologies or even just stances on things? Which is why, for me, I always argue that these different groups that we find ourselves in against another are contextual. Like, if there's a situation where I believe that my interests are also contained in what Gibbs cares about, then I'll gladly work with him without reservation. If there's something that's to go all the way to the extreme, not to invoke this person, but he's been dodging me for over a year. Like, if there's something that like Hutch and I have aligned interest on, I'll gladly work with him without reservation. My ideology is what keeps me principled, but we'll have different interests and context. And just because somebody's of X ideology doesn't mean I cannot work with them. Just because somebody's a
Are we
liberal
still
doesn't mean like,
talking about
oh,
populism? I
yes.
feel like you're just talking about like political pragmatism, maybe
I think
like
we should let Joe talk for an
why
hour and a
maybe.
half and just like let him define every word and then like never get to a conversation. I'll be really happy. It'll be fun. I already
Okay,
said it, but
I
I don't
think
want to be stuck on this, please, for the love
yes.
of God.
I wanna
Please.
move on. I wanna move
I
on. I wanna move
okay.
forward. I wanna get to the rest of the show because I guess maybe I'll try this. I think that populist rhetoric is not a tool that we should use, even if it might help us in certain elections or in certain areas. And my thesis here is because it creates a situation where, in order to succeed, you have to undermine in a very real way the institutions that exist in America.
Good.
No,
That's
that is
fine.
not good. One of the
The
major problems we're
institution,
having in America is a deep distrust in institutions. That's why
yes.
so many people refuse to get a COVID vaccine, right?
But
They
you
have a
can admit
deep
that those
distrust.
institutions don't work for everybody in the same ways, right? Equality
But
within the
there's a
institutions don't
sure,
exist. Okay,
there
great.
is a
So if
difference.
inequality does not exist within the institutions, what should we do when those inequalities arise? Because there are plenty of people, for instance, who have totally fine relationships with the healthcare system. That is a valid reality. But there are also
Well, I
people
mean,
who don't have
it
good relationships with the healthcare institution. That's a valid reality. So
so
how do
it
we
depends
get
on
to
what kind of equality you're talking about, because some inequalities are good, right? Like, it really depends what you're
yeah,
talking about here.
like inequality is
And or
fine until it's
inevitable.
against
Yeah.
inequalities are fine until it's against something, right? Like inequality of genders exists across all societies in the world. That doesn't mean they're unjust.
Well,
They're
yeah,
just
I want to capitalize
occurrences.
on what you're saying here, Joe, because I was going hard on you earlier. But you're right to say like, no, populism isn't just inherently bad because you can capitalize on the idea of, hey, this institution is not working for a majority of people, and you can use that
Sure.
rhetoric to try to foment change, right? So if I just say healthcare is bad and we need to overhaul it, yeah, that's a little thought terminating. But if you can look at the American healthcare system and realize that it is not working the way we want it to, and capitalize off of this injustice that is a popular feeling of inadequacy, most people like their healthcare insofar as like, oh well, well, maybe I don't want to change because it's kind of working out for me. But ultimately, we know there's a better option, and most people want that better option. And being able to capitalize on that, that would be populism, saying, look, this institution is not working
No.
very well for most people. It could be a lot better. Let's push it to where it could be, right?
That's
That's
not-
fine.
But that's not populism.
That's populism, Wick.
I disagree. Populism
wrong.
would be like, let's take the healthcare issue.
You
Populism
see why I
wouldn't
asked
be.
this? So
Right.
until you
Sure.
No, it's important, but yeah, that's why you just get Wick to
If I
disagree and
may,
then fight him on it.
explain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but
Populism
which is
isn't
why I asked
just-
about the floor, because if we can't figure out what the floor is, like I thought we
Let-
understood the floor was
let
us
me
versus
answer,
them.
let me
but-
That's
explain
not
why I
real
don't think that's
populism, right,
populism.
Wick?
You
That's
can
crony
disagree,
populism.
right? Saying a specific institution such as healthcare is not working and we need to reform it is not populist. When you say healthcare isn't working because those evil insurance companies are pushing you down and the real working American has to suffer because those elites in Washington are setting up the healthcare system to benefit the rich and hurt the poor. That's populism.
So those
Right,
will
and do you
both
understand
be
the difference between
populism.
these
You
very
understand
important
what you just
question, very
defined a good
important-
version
wait,
and a bad
yeah,
version, and then you
wait,
said, well,
wait,
the good
very
version is
important-
something I don't think is populism.
No,
Therefore,
well, soy
No,
pill.
they're
Soy pill. Let me try to
very
add
important
nuance.
different
question.
things.
I have a very important
Also,
question for
hello
you, Wick.
everyone. How's it
Hi,
going?
Dev.
What's up, Dev?
Welcome.
Yeah.
You're late, so
I'd
you
have
don't
it.
get an intro.
Wick.
Oh,
what-
sorry. I was still watching you, even though it was late. Sorry. I know what's going on.
That's okay.
Wick,
You're fine, fam.
do you think that FDR was a populist?
FDR specifically, I'd have to go back. I'm sure that he probably engaged in some populist rhetoric. Whether he was a populist or not, I just don't know. I don't know enough about the specifics of FDR to make a real big claim on that. But what I'm
Okay.
saying is to kind of to go to Soy Pill's point here is you can tackle problems within institutions and not be a populist. But it's the way you do it and the way you set up the framing that makes it populist.
So what's that framing?
I agree.
For you?
Yeah, wait.
Well, I
I
gave
think
you
that
an
actually
example, but go ahead, Tali.
that distinction was important. I think, like to Soy, where you took issue with what Wick just said. His point is like, yes, you could have the large majority of the populace believing that there is something broken in our healthcare system, and moving to reform it is not inherently populist just because.
sure, but the populist part of it is the
represents will of the
idea that
people.
the reason, even though a majority of
man.
people want this to change, is that there's some other incentive here happening. And whether or not that's
There's some
the elites
nefarious
and the insurance
elite-
companies are keeping you down, which is populism. It could also be, hey, there are some like
system.
perverse incentive structures here that are causing this not to happen. Either way, I would still call this populism.
Well, I
don't
wanna piggyback off
Hold
what- I
on.
wanna-
Wait. But hold on. Sorry, just really quickly. But Soy, I think to the point that you agreed with earlier, the core of populism is that dichotomy and the distinction between the people and the elite. So saying we have some perverse incentive structures, we need to work on the funding and stuff in certain places, that's just governance. That's just
But we-
democracy.
mm.
That's
The
not
idea is
populism unless you are
capitalizing on a-
blaming the
on a
nefarious
common
forces that are
person's
holding
grievance.
people
Let
down.
Tali finish. And then
But I think that is, I think, because otherwise, then populist literally just means nothing. Then we are just using
No.
it to mean something that is popular.
We're-
It
Okay,
is
let's
The
let her
idea
respond.
that
Let's
it's
let her
a
making
respond.
the
popular
All the rest
thing
of us
that is
shut
not
up. Let her
happening
respond.
because of something, whether that be elites or some sort of like, it
No,
could
no,
be
but it's
like a
not just
systemic issue,
something.
but that is
No.
populism. That's what I'm talking about. It's a
No,
popular
yes, but
issue that hasn't
populism-
changed despite the democracy voting for something that they would otherwise want,
When
right?
you are blaming the elites, yes, it's not populist to say again, oh, we tried this thing. It looks like there were a few trade-offs that we need to fix. We need to improve on this. We need to improve the funding here. That's not populism.
Yeah, well, that's
Otherwise,
not what I'm talking
everything
about.
is.
Okay.
Well,
Well, that
okay,
is
so-
just
Can I
kind of.
piggyback-
You
can I
were the
piggyback
one that
off
was
what
your
Soy Pill said?
example.
No,
wasn't
no,
it?
Just
Hold on.
talking.
Okay, enough. Gibbs, then Dev,
Okay.
then Ice Beans.
I'm not going to live this
Yeah.
down, Soy Pill.
So this is what this like Soy Pill's kind of hitting at, and like is with the system. It doesn't necessarily like have to be the elites. Like that's why it's like the pigeonhole. Like I know you want to say something's not populism. We get into like the nuance of what is and what isn't populism. But like I feel like what a lot of people have said here, at least in the United States, I think this is really what I thought we were going to talk about. Is okay. These people have gotten in here. They say the system's inefficient and it's not working for them. And now, since they have this movement behind them and they are in power, I feel like to some extent, some people say they're making the system more efficient. Other people are saying they're stepping over the checks and balances. And so, like, I guess what I thought we were going to argue is whether or not this is a good thing. Is sometimes with a system that's designed to be purposely slowed is wiped out and try to be more efficient, or if this is a bad thing. And I thought that's what we were going with this. But it seems like we're doing definition debate instead of talking about the issue.
I agree, Gibbs.
Well,
I
I
do want to
mean,
get into
yeah.
the prescription part, but just real quick to clarify, I'm not just saying a bunch of people want to change it, therefore it's populism. The idea is that it doesn't have to be elites. If it's set up in such a way, and you can say, hey, capitalism, for-profit healthcare has caused these perverse incentives. That's why, despite everyone wanting this better thing, it doesn't happen, and we need to change something about that. That could be elites maliciously manipulating it, but it could also just be, hey, like the system is set up in such a way that this won't change despite a majority of people wanting it, and we need to, overthrow so many institutions or change this rule. That's still populism because you're capitalizing off this mostly common sentiment and saying there's this issue that's preventing a majority of people from getting what a majority of people want. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not just change the government.
Can I piggyback on that
I think-
too?
Well,
Go for it, Ice. You're good.
I
You're
was gonna
fine, go
say
for it.
I was gonna say, Tali, I think that I think I understand a little bit here. I think there is absolute ways to say that there's absolutely ways to define this without necessarily specific idea. They're I just looked it up, and with FDR, it was more of the forgotten man against economic royalists, not specifically, right? Not a specific person, but it's
Doesn't
more
need to be a
so.
specific person.
Oh
That is
yeah,
still the elite. The economic royalists is the
I mean, if you
oligarchy
wanna,
of 2026.
if you
It's
wanna,
the
if you
elite. It's the
wanna,
billionaire class.
okay.
It's the Epstein
I'm
class.
just saying. I'm just right, and there is very
I think
commonly
you
one.
guys
I'm
are
just saying that.
wrong.
No, I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that that's somebody who didn't pin somebody to the wall and say this class is the problem. It was vague. Like economic royalists was vague.
Yeah,
It
It was way more
often
focused on the
is vague.
forgotten man.
It often yeah,
Sure,
well, and
but I
that's where I
guess
think Soypil was right. Although I think his characterization, I take issue with his characterization, although I think that is how populists think, which is the obvious will of the people. Obviously, everyone sees that this thing is working incorrectly in this one way. So I think there's this assumption that they speak for the pure, true voice of the people. But I do think that it has to it's not just, again, there are issues in the system. You get closer when you're saying the issue in the system is greedy capitalism, because then even if you're pointing to a system and not a people, you're getting at the greedy capitalists who run that system, right? But I don't think it's enough to say that populism is when a majority of people want something that isn't happening to them for whatever reason. It's not just when the popular will of the people is being subdued in some way. It is pointing at the people who are holding you down, whether that's the political elite or the economic elite. That's what populism
In a lot of
is.
cases,
I mean, I
it's the-
preempted this in my opening statement that populism is not populism. Like the idea that just because something is popular or reflects majority sentiment doesn't automatically make it good or socially beneficial. Like democracy
or
yeah, but
works
I don't think
best.
anything that
Democracy
Sophia said
works best.
contradicted that.
Was it that Wick said?
No. I'm saying that I'm saying what Tali was issue with Joy's specific invoking of the reform and stuff like that, and also
Right.
but we don't need it.
But I just didn't get the vibe that was what he was saying, which is why I was just kind of confused on that. I think his point was
I
pretty
want to make
clear.
sure Dev gets a chance to get in here. I know he was trying to get in here earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, when I remember taking political science in university, I mean, the idea of populism, it wasn't just us versus them. It also wasn't just the masses versus the elites. It was institutional knowledge versus common sense or folk knowledge or the knowledge of the masses, right? It's the idea that the elites are corrupt or they're out of touch or they just don't know how to run society, and that the common people inherently know better. And that's why sometimes things that are popular are not necessarily populist, but it's not as broad as us versus them.
Yeah, like that's
Well, it
why
is us versus the elites, though. Dev, didn't you just agree?
Yeah, but it's not sufficient though.
it's not. Yeah, like, do you agree that? Are you trying to say, Tali, just to land the plane? Do you think that
Sure.
idea of the people versus the elite is sufficient?
Yes, unless you're to give me some like specific example where I could say, oh, okay, well, no, not in this scenario. But yes, I think that is
So
the sentiment. It's the pure,
And after this,
honest people versus the
yeah,
corrupt elite.
after
Yes, I do
this, I
think
do
you
have
that's
a
an
don't
easy
question
way
to
to
move us
distill it.
on. So,
so are the elite a fixed entity in conflict?
No, but that's not required.
So the elite doesn't need to be a fixed entity in conflict, but the elite must exist. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the elite could be like a system. It could be the elite,
Yes, the elite.
literally. Like it
Oh,
could
I
be
mean,
a stand-in, right? That's what you're like. Why are we getting so hung up on
right.
this?
Yeah, let's say, look, if the elite can be a
It's the
system, we can
30
all
minutes.
disagree and
It's the
move on to
30
the actual
minutes of
conversation.
Yeah,
definition hogging.
yeah,
It's the
that's what I'm
30
saying.
minutes of definition happens if
Sure.
okay, but some people are wrong online. Anyway, and I do think it is very important carrying on to kind of
Yeah, if you think that all
what
that's the
is
elite, then
the
I'm cool
thing.
with that.
But let's move on. Some of you have mentioned that you are willing to use populism. Well, I guess, does anyone here think that populist rhetoric has made our country better? Like in the last
Yes,
10 years or so, where populism's been on the rise, has
absolutely.
populism made it better? You say yes.
Yep.
Why?
Absolutely.
I guess.
Absolutely not.
Okay, we
No.
have disagreement. So go with
Yeah,
why you think it is, and then we can
absolutely.
hear why
I
it
would
has.
say like it's really short for me that it's how the conflict was engaged with, how the antagonism emerged is why I take issue with. But the conflict itself, I don't think is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how healthcare has shifted in the conversation, Bernie's populist rhetoric that started in 2016, I think, has shifted this country in such a good way in terms of making sure the Overton window includes we need to completely overhaul and reform and get some sort of public option here where, Obama was pushing for one, but the populist rhetoric, first of all, Obama did capitalize on populist rhetoric. That's how like the whole change movement was. And like, oh, we need to give you healthcare. No one's getting it. This is our country's behind. Bernie did this as well. And I think has moved the conversation in such a positive way that this would not have happened but for the populist rhetoric.
Why do you disagree, Dev?
Mainly because it's led to a whole bunch of distrust in institutions, and you might have had some short-term gain, but it's been a whole lot of long-term.
Well, the
pain,
question
I feel.
wasn't was it net good. The question was has it done good. So we can
Or has it
disagree on the
been
minutia
good
there.
for America or not?
Okay, well, the difference between good and net good is kind of important here. I
Well,
guess,
sure. I think it's been a net bad insofar as populist rhetoric got Trump elected, and that's been a horrible thing for our
Both
country.
exist.
So
Both are true realities, right?
Fake news. It's been a great thing. But I think I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's been good. Like even with stuff I don't agree with, like Joe brought up the Overton window on the healthcare. Like I think it's getting pretty common. Like, hey, okay, why are we spending all this money doing X, Y, Z when we're the richest country in the world? We should have the best healthcare, right? Like that comes across. I've even moved positions on some shit. Like, okay, I've been pretty anti-tax, like taxes going to welfare programs for a long time. Now I'm seeing all this fraud. And I'm going, hey. You know what? Maybe it's just because of a product of the fraud, and maybe these programs actually would work if we gutted them and put people in there that were supposed to do it the right way.
what fraud are you seeing?
Oh, Lordy, bro. We don't need to have that debate now. But like we're seeing it like this all over the place, right? And I'm just seeing like these kind of sentiment of where like people felt disenfranchised and they're looking for an answer, whether it's the system, whether it's elite. And that's why I think Trump is in office now and why Bernie was popular before. And it's just there is like some sort of disenfranchised group in America. And I think it's the average person. Like they can look back and see what they were doing during the 50s, the 60s for what people were doing. And they're going, why don't we get to have our house at this price at our cost of living? Why do I have to suffer?
We live in
like,
a different world.
Sure,
That's the
I
problem
agree.
with populism.
know,
Is
like,
it
the
sells
problem-
it feeds on people's grievances and it sells them lies. So it's
Yeah,
not
it sells-
sustainable in that sense. And then again,
that's the-
you sell them lies.
No,
Then
no,
when you get your people elected, they can't actually deliver on what you want,
the
and so then they become the
the-
elite that you hate and try to tear down too.
Gibbs,
No,
what I'm
this is-
hearing
this is
from
a-
you.
this is an
Self-defeating.
example.
Cyclical.
No, this
One
is
at
an
a time.
example-
Hold on. Ice Beans finish, and then
Yeah.
Joe can go.
Yeah, no. This is exactly an example of how populism is utilized specifically to make our country worse. This idea that there's widespread fraud and that is exemplary of these welfare programs. And in so using that as an excuse to gut these programs is exactly the problem. Yes, correct. It has been used for bad.
Gibbs, I see your face. Gibbs, I see your face there. Listen, Nick Shirley is a fucking loser. Okay.
I mean, okay.
We're not
let's
having the
just,
fraud
like,
debate today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
We're not
crazy.
bully the mentally
No, but
disabled here.
it's
It's just not.
admirable.
Gib,
Why didn't you hear?
Educated.
That's what the vice president announced today. That's his new That's his big boy job in the White House, is that
I-
he's
I'm-
going
Fucking God. Couldn't
after.
he
Wait,
just
actually?
go back to fucking couches?
He's been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds. I mean, it sounds like not a bad idea in theory, but yeah, that's the new thing that he announced today is that they're going to enforce states.
This is a problem, I think, with populism.
Yeah, okay.
Not a bad
So
idea in
called.
theory on some cases, but then when you look at how it's implemented and what happens because of it, everything goes to shit, right?
Yeah.
We talk
Oh, well,
about
bad
like
things happen.
Yeah,
Therefore, we
well,
should never,
yeah.
ever, ever
Never,
do it.
I don't think
ever.
I don't think we should engage in populist rhetoric because it hurts us long term. I think it
I agree with
Problem is
the
worse.
brain
Like,
rot that can happen from
it's
it.
too sexy. It's
can't
too sexy. That's
say
why
that.
that's why I'm distressed over this because I don't really see how either side, or any good candidate is going to win without like feeding that kind of that base instinct that people have, that populist
Good
instinct that people
things
seem to
aren't
have right
possible.
now.
I mean, but hold on. Like we just
Give
saw
wait,
like, just
wait,
last
give,
week.
real
like,
fast. I was waiting. I love you, friend. So I agree with you, right? Like the realities of rural farmers is a valid reality. And then the challenge then becomes what are the questions within that reality? And then what are the possible answers within that reality? And something that I think that we all kind of clocked in some form or fashion is that when you have somebody like a Donald Trump saying, this is what the problem is, and then the people go, it's not exactly the problem, but I guess I agree. That to me is insufficient. Like a politician's duty is to reflect the reality of the people. So their job is a temporary role of like maintenancing and upkeeping and then changing the realities of everyday people. That's what I think good governance emerges from. And Donald Trump is an example of this. Barack Obama is an example of this, where bad governance emerges when the realities of people is in contradiction with the policies and the solutions that they come about, like the answers to the questions that they're trying to do. Because sometimes the question could be wrong, sometimes the answer could be wrong, sometimes both could be wrong. So I agree with you there.
Wick, would you say that Zoran
Yeah,
is a populist?
I think that he used populist rhetoric to get elected, but since he's been elected, I don't see him governing in a populist manner.
See, this is what
but
I'm
I
talking about.
could-
You're like, well,
Wait,
he's doing
tag
things
him.
that I can't disagree with, so it's
No.
not populism
No,
anymore.
tag
Like,
me.
No, hold on. There's a lot of things I
No,
disagree with.
this
Hold
is-
on,
this
stop.
is- no,
Icebeam,
this
shut
is-
up. Icebeam, stop. I'm
Okay,
answering
go.
Soypill's question, please. There's a lot of things that people do that I disagree with that aren't populist, right? One of the things that Zoran Mamdani did do recently that I do kind of disagree with is pension restructuring. I don't
Okay.
think that's going to end well. I think that the way he's been balancing the budget by pension restructuring, and also he took a bailout from some other people, like that's not sustainable, right? That's not
you know?
going to work in the long term. It's not. It's like a fake balancing of the budget.
what
But
did
is that
Mamdani do
populist?
that you like
I
that
don't
isn't
think so.
populism?
Huh?
What did Mamdani do that's you don't like that you do like, but it's not populism?
What did Mamdani do that I do like that is not populism? Again,
Yeah.
populism isn't what you do. And I want to make this clear.
It's how you
not
frame
what
it.
you do. It's
Okay.
how you frame it.
How did
and
he
how you
frame it?
go about getting the
It
political
wasn't
will to make
populism.
it change.
He was
Has
just
he
like, I'm
framed
a
something that you
pragmatic
think is
guy and
good?
I'm not being a brain rotty populist. And you're like, and that's good. What did he do?
Repeat the question.
What's a pro Mamdani policy that you're like, I'm good, this is a good thing? However, he did not use populist framing on it.
I don't know the framing that he used specifically for this.
Wick, come on,
Okay,
man.
No,
wait,
hold on. You
wait.
keep doing this. Name something he's done that's
Wait,
All right,
populist.
Wait,
let's
what-
say the
what
free
is the-
buses
even the
thing. Free
public
public
transit.
Free
transport.
buses isn't
Wait,
populism.
hold on,
Public
hold on, Wick,
transit.
don't worry.
Right.
I'll
Hold on,
gonna
stop.
No,
No,
I'm gonna
shut
stop
up.
your ego real
Shut up.
quick.
Shut up. Shut up.
Oh
Let me
my
answer the
God.
question. Let me engage with this. Free busing isn't populist. Why would it be?
Because you're saying, hey, we all do this thing, everyone, and there's this system that lets us get around and work and eat, and some reason this costs us money. No, we all need to make like this a common good for everyone. That's populism.
No, that is not.
Oh my God. All
Then
right.
what is
no,
it
wait,
if not
let me try,
populism?
let me try.
Populism
No,
would
no, no,
be
let me
like
try.
the busing industry has raised the rates to enrich their fat cats and the bus CEOs, and therefore we, the people, need to rise up against them and make busing free. I am with you, the people. I am against the fat cat bus CEO guys, and therefore that would be populism. Did Zoran
Populism
Mamdani do
is
that?
Mamdani. Populism is Mamdani filming that ad outside of that billionaire's house and literally pointing up to his
Yeah, and
house and
talking
saying,
about
people like these who
taxing
don't
these
even live
billionaires.
in their
Yeah.
primary residence. Right, exactly. Making
Okay, do
an
you agree with that
enemy out
policy,
of
Wick?
this rich guy.
Are y'all saying that there's no like every pop like okay? I just want to be clear what y'all are saying. You're saying that there could be no populist policy, period, because populism is only the rhetoric. Because if that's what you're saying, that's fucking retarded. Like I'd like
Thank
William
you.
Like,
Bryant.
no, hold on,
Yeah,
wait,
like,
hold
that
on.
is
No,
that is fucking like,
I want to get, no, I
like,
want to
because
get
William
in, I
Jennings
want to get in
Bryant
with the thing.
put like
I agree with Gibbs.
William Jennings Bryant put out absolute policy
What's
that was
happening,
specific
I
to
know,
Swordfill?
populism.
I know, I want to get
Like,
in before Wick
Go on, I
before
speak.
Wick
yeah,
forgets
go
his
ahead.
point. Okay, like to me, it's not necessarily that I don't think that there isn't populist policy, but Zoran Mamdani, I think I agree with what you were saying, Wick, in that Zoran Mamdani utilized populism into power. Now that he is in power, he is governing without all of the overt trappings of populism that he utilized when he was
As
running.
far as I can tell, and I don't follow
He's,
That's
him.
why
he's
you
still
don't see. That's
using.
why you don't. No, I
I
mean,
don't
no,
know
no.
about
I'm not saying
No,
he
I
doesn't.
don't agree with that.
No, I'm not saying he doesn't utilize that framework sometimes. I'm saying that the things that you actually see, you're not seeing the same. Like you're not seeing the same stuff that you would see out of a Trump governance, where like he still does the
Mhm.
campaign rallies, he still talks about deep state, he still blah 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 blah, right? Like, so to me, it's more, and this is what I would say is a more preferable type of like utilizing populism. You use populism to get in. Once you're in, yes, you can engage in some of that rhetoric. You can even
But
go so
I
far as to do populist
yeah,
policy.
the problem
But
is
I don't necessarily see like busing as
sure.
like
Yeah,
inherently populist.
busing isn't a populist
But
position.
that
Like
doesn't mean I
busing for
can't be.
all, Medicare
No,
for
but
all, these are not populist positions, right?
how is
It's
wait?
only
Okay, how is Medicare for all
Oh my
not
goodness.
populist?
if I simply say, "Hey, I think
What?
that our healthcare system is broken. We need to fix it so more people can get healthcare, and we have a Medicare for all system to do that."
Okay,
That is not necessarily populist.
what?
Populism
Wait,
is when I
Huh?
say
Wick,
the healthcare
is a
system is broken
billionaire
because
tax
there
a
are
specific
elite,
wealth tax on
corrupt
billionaires? Is that
figures that are
populist?
looking to hold
No,
you down.
Wick.
Wick, is a
The
billionaire
whole
wealth tax
idea.
populism? Like, is that a
These
populist
things
policy?
are
It
not. They're
you
not inherently. They're
No,
not
not
inherently
necessarily.
populist.
Wick,
It is when you say the billionaire class needs to cease to exist because they're
What
holding the
other
people down.
Wick,
reason?
you
What
That's why
know,
we
other
gotta
reason
tax
would
them
you
out of
tax
existence.
billionaires on
That's
their
hold on,
wealth?
populism.
Wait,
Well,
Merely raising the taxes on a group of people is not populism.
Like, I'm kind of
Wick.
confused here because,
I
like,
don't know
even in
why
the
you're confused.
ad,
This is very simple.
no,
I'm
no,
being
no, like,
very
even in the
clear.
advertisement about the ad about pointing to Ken Griffin's like $200+ million apartment, that was pointing like, hey, this is a thing that exists within our society. This is part of an unjust system, and this is what I'm going to do to tackle this unjust practice. He's not pointing to Ken Griffin, the individual. He is pointing to Ken Griffin as an
of course
example
he
of a
was. He was literally at his house as an example of a member of the class who was holding
I
you
was still
guys down.
speaking. I love
It's
your friend.
textbook
I was
populism.
still speaking. I appreciate you, but I'm
Okay,
still
I'm
speaking.
engaging with
Ken
you. I'm
Griffin. Yeah,
engaging with
I
you here.
wasn't done with the thought. So now you're going to look ridiculous. She was pointing to Ken Griffin
Okay,
not as an
you let it rip.
individual, but he was somebody who was participating in that unjust institution and that unjust system. He's not going after Ken Griffin. He's going after the system that produces the practices of a Ken Griffin.
But
That's
to
different.
do that, he
Oh,
was
Is that
utilizing
populism?
populist rhetoric to build support so he can accomplish his goal. His
And
goal
he did
in and of itself is not necessarily
so he did that.
populist.
So he pointed at the
Hey,
thing
he
and
goes
did
nothing
the
and
thing.
$50,
Does that
and you won't
make it
interrupt my money.
populist?
$50 from Pondering Politics to say
Hey,
Josiah thinks it might be good if we take some time to define populism.
Oh my
Josiah,
God,
shut
I
up.
shut
You missed the
the
fucking
first
hell
30
tried.
minutes
up,
of agony.
Ryan.
Hell no.
I tried.
I think there's a
Okay.
slight conflation. Like, so I also don't think that Medicare for all or single payer is necessarily inherently populist. It's a very common like populist left wing, especially populist position to take. I think we're almost like conflating, not to use the word socialism in the most derogatory way, but we're almost like conflating populism and socialism here, which I think ironically the populists of the left and the right do end up coming around to more like economically left wing perspectives, policies, or whatever. But the original populist party in the United States of America it had a sort of a mixture of what we would consider today to be left and right wing populist positions. So it had a progressive tax system, and it had a rule that made it illegal for foreigners to purchase or own land in the United States. So it is kind of this mixture of what we see still explicitly today on the left and the right. But the Populist Party, when it failed in America, broke down into several socialist and Marxist parties after that. So there is like something sort of socialist adjacent to populism, and maybe that's what you guys are pointing to when you're saying that Medicare for all is obviously an inherently populist, but there's
No.
nothing inherently
Tali,
populist
Tali,
about
respectfully,
saying that you want to
Tali. Well,
design.
I real quick,
no,
real
Just
quick.
don't argue on
real
it.
quick.
Just grant it. Just grant it because this is going to get so fucking
okay,
annoying.
No,
Just
I'm
grant
gonna
it.
try,
I
and then
can't
I'm
was
gonna
so
grant it.
objective.
I'm gonna
No,
try,
don't.
and then I'm gonna
I'm
grant it.
okay,
Okay, okay, okay. One at a time. One at a time. Joe, then
I
Ice
am gonna-
Beans.
Okay.
Tali, respectfully, I tried to disaggregate this idea of elites versus common people as a broad us versus them, and you insisted to inject this idea as a common person versus the elite. Like, we tried to have this disaggregation of a broad us versus them
What's your
to
point?
be beyond this idea. So to say that we're stuck in
No,
this,
it is the elite, but I didn't.
this is your making. This is your
This,
making.
this
is what I'm
seems
trying to say.
non-responsive. What are you saying right now that's a response to anything I just
You
said?
made this socialist adjacent. We tried not to do that.
I'm telling
Okay.
you that's the history of populism in
Tali,
America.
Tali,
I'm
okay,
going
Tali,
through a
Tali.
short historical record of the
Okay,
populist party in
yes.
America.
Kali, again, okay, I am gonna try one more time, but then yes, I think it's better if we drop this. Okay, the whole idea of America having the best healthcare is a fundamental lie. You only have the best healthcare if you can afford it. If you are rich enough to afford it. That is the point. That is the specific railing. That is why it's not good to be tied to this idea that there has to be an elite. The elite could be somebody who can afford shitloads of money, like hundreds and thousands of dollars to spend on if they get brain cancer. Versus like what happens in real life in America where people go bankrupt because of their medical bill. That doesn't mean they have the best healthcare in the world. They do not. So the specific idea of Medicare for all, I don't know about this framing, about the socialist framing or anything like that. But this is why it is not good to relegate yourself to like a really specific, there needs to be a elite. No, it can be as simple as nobody can afford good healthcare. That is
Just
why we need
defining the term the way that it's been used
No. We're not going to loop on
historically.
this. We're not going to loop
and
this.
look at
We
what
fundamentally
FDR
disagree on
wait,
this.
Too late.
no, look at
We
how
fundamentally
late,
disagree on this.
It's too
FDR has
late.
done has
That's okay.
exactly been along
We got
these
other
lines.
questions.
This is really silly. This is
It
absolutely
is really
garbage.
silly. We had a fundamental disagreement here. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna try to get to some interesting product. I think this has been interesting, but a lot of people don't. Soy Pill, what's your solution then to populist rhetoric? Like, so you mentioned in your opening statement that you want to harness it at certain points. When can you give an example for us just so we understand when is it okay and when would it not be okay to use
Yeah,
populist
sure.
rhetoric?
So like there's this billionaire tax happening in California, and like the more I look into it, it seems like this is just not the best way to accomplish what the populist goal is, which is, hey, there's a lot of wealth disparity. We want to spread that wealth out. How can we do this the best? How can we raise revenue? How can we make sure these elites are, like feeding into welfare systems or, paying back into the system that made them rich? And if you look at this specific tax, I'm like, it looks like it's a one-time retroactive tax. So even if this doesn't pass, we've already lost revenue from billionaires moving all of their residencies because they don't want to be on the receiving end of this if they were residented in the state past January of this year and it passes in November. 25% of like the projected revenue has already been lost and it hasn't even passed yet. So using populism here to say, guys, elites do have a disproportionate amount of wealth that probably is undeserved to some extent with how much more they have. We could spread this out better. And here's the best way to do that. There are not just these simple solutions where we just say, take the money or tax the wealth. There are ways that you extract this wealth and reintegrate it. And so you take the frustration of people hating the elites for having all this money and say, how's the best way to redistribute that? I think that's capitalizing on populism and then trying to pass a more practical policy. A bad way would be doing this billionaire tax where it's like, okay, it looks like this is not going to get the money we want. It's going to cause all this wealth fleeing. And you're just using this, hey, they're bad, let's get their money. And then you end up making the problem not better. So yeah, there are two ways to tackle this. And as long as you're introducing nuance and practicality and you have projections on how you're capitalizing on the populist rhetoric is actually going to make the problem better, I think that's fine.
Does anyone disagree with what Soy Pill just said? Aside from me.
No, I don't disagree.
Well, yeah, because I
would
don't
have
think
slightly a different answer to your question, but that's like I don't disagree.
Fair enough. Tali.
I don't think I think it's like naive to believe that the populism, not to oversimplify it, but you're essentially dealing with mob rule at that point. And so I think it's naive to believe that you're going to be able to control the mob when you allow it to push you forward. So you ride that wave to get in, and then I don't think that like
Well,
yeah, no,
can I
I
piggyback off that, Tally? I
don't
like think this is really interesting that
sure.
you're bringing up the mob rule, right? So like we saw Tammany Hall now. The claim, and I know y'all are going to object to what I'm about to say, but that's fine. But the claim that the right has been making, and this is why the drain the swamp or this is populist language, is that there's a corrupt, we could call it elite, or in this case, the system or the uniparty or the deep state, anyone of these picks. Excuse me, I'm sorry, and has come in and they've made the system corrupt, and it's even the stuff that's supposed to be helping the average man is not helping him, whether you're right or left, right? And so this fraud or this perceived fraud and all these different things. And so Trump has used this populist rhetoric to come in here, and now he's like, we're going to gut it, as opposed to Bernie's, which was expanded. And so that's kind of, I think, where we're seeing this policy aspect come into play, which I don't necessarily agree that, the policy can't be populist, but I do think the rhetoric for sure. Like, I don't understand, I guess, what your objection is to what Soy Pill is saying.
So my objection, objection to which part? Objection to his definition or objection to what he just said?
What I just said
No
about
definition.
how it could be good and how
Not
it
the
could be bad.
definition. For the global God, more definition.
Well, because I think that, like, to talk about, like, yes, you can get short-term gains, but I think that the danger in that is that you're doing long-term harm to how you're able to govern. I think that, again, consistently pushing the line that there is this group, whether it be shadowy elites or another group that is specifically corrupting a system, capitalism in this case, and therefore that's why there's these inequalities. I think it makes it impossible
that's not true?
sometimes to actually fix
Well,
what the
What
problem
if that was
is.
true, Wick? What would you say?
Would you accuse bureaucracy in that? Say, like, we just thought it was overly bureaucratic, and you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to, like,
think that
streamline it.
sometimes
Would that be?
bureaucracy, like anti-bureaucracy stuff, can be populist, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? Like,
Wick, what
again,
if I could point you to rich people who have heavy influence over the entire country and have disproportionate influence, and that's a problem, we need to fix it? If that was just true, how would you address it if addressing it would fall into this populist brain rot that you're worried about?
okay, one of the ways that we address these things is kind of like uh what's the best term for this? I guess to maybe answer your question, a good, like, analogy would be if I wanted to fix racial problems in this country. One of the ways I would do it, calm down.
Wick, fix racism, the panel. Let's go.
One of the ways I would do it is by making laws, policies, etc., that don't attack white people because they have privilege, but rather address some of the inequalities between the races.
Which
Now,
I
when we
don't
talk
think this
about,
maps
like,
on. Let me
if
talk
there
about a
are
real
group of
thing. Let me
people
talk about
who
a
are
real thing.
billionaires-
Wick. Koch brother money since the 2000s has been this incredible influence over local elections, over state elections, over the general election, where these two people are able to have this hugely disproportionate power. This is an elite that is overriding the masses in certain ways because they're able to influence the media, the commercials, they're able to donate just this large sums of money. And if I'm going to capitalize on people discovering this and say, guys, isn't this shitty that you and your opinion is being overwritten by these people with this fuck ton of money? This is populism, right? This is us,
And
the
you know what
popular
that
people
led to?
versus the elites.
Sure.
And
You
we're
know
like,
what that-
how do we stop
yeah.
this? How do we
You know what
capitalize
that
this?
kind
How do
of
we
framing has
reform these
led
laws?
to? It's led
What?
to Taylor Lorenz's article. You can draw a
Oh my
one-to-one.
My God.
You can draw a
Oh my
one.
God.
You can draw a
No.
one-to-one
Wick.
line
No.
Remember at the
comparison.
beginning when you said we weren't going to bring that
Again,
up?
Okay, wait.
this
Can
idea
I move you
about
off? Can you wait?
stop.
Let's talk
Let me
about
answer the question.
centrism.
I
Let's
wanna-
do
I wanna
it. The
pu- I wanna-
centrist panel.
I want to push you.
No, we're not doing the centrist panel, but you brought this up. Like, how is that going to be a problem? Like, why is populist rhetoric a problem with something
I
that's
didn't
true?
say there couldn't be problems. Wait, Wick, stop. You and I agree. You and I agree,
You're
Wick. You and I
attacking the wrong
agree.
target.
You and I agree that populism can lead to brain rot. It can lead to thought-terminating cliches. It can lead people to just look for the easiest solutions and not actually explore the nuanced position that might lead to a good outcome, right? Just because that can happen does not mean that the populist framing is correct to say there are literally these two elites who are overriding your vote as the majority of people. And we need to use that frustration to address that problem, right?
But the problem I'm pointing to is that you're trying to utilize this frustration, and it's creating. And people are catching strays that
Okay, what should
be
they do instead
catching strays.
of what how do you address the
If you're
Coke thing
asking
without
me to
using
fix
populism?
dark money and politics,
No, I'm
on this
asking you
channel, I can't do
how
that.
do you run with a frustrated populace, a frustrated electorate, and without populism, tell them this is how we're going to address this thing. Hit me.
You can point to, hey, here are the laws that people have been abusing, and we're going to correct those laws.
Which is
Okay.
populism.
Okay.
Just-
That is not
yeah.
populism.
Why not?
Wait,
Okay.
can I be even more explicit? Okay.
You can be even more
If
explicit.
you talk vague enough, it
This
becomes
guy-
not populism. I agree.
When you asked me about this, and you asked me what was a good example of populism. One of the things I brought up, or the thing that I brought up, is the Epstein. Okay, now, would you agree that pushing on the Epstein files is
Not
No.
necessarily.
Oh,
Oh,
okay, my
no.
mistake. I shouldn't have asked the fucking question. Okay,
Giant,
Wow.
like
Just-
giant
just
totally-
distraction
no,
to
no, no,
feed
no,
a
no,
moral
no, no,
panic.
Hold on, no, let
no.
me answer the
Oh, no,
question.
no,
Hold
no.
on, let me
I-
answer your
I- I-
question,
I-
and
I-
let me
Twitter
address your
clips for-
concerns.
I don't
Stop,
want
please.
people-
I want to
people-
actually engage here with what Ice Beans is saying.
Okay.
Technically,
I don't
it's
want to be
free
on
to feel,
Twitter.
though.
Please,
If-
Wick, please. I don't want to be on Twitter. Like, be careful.
Oh,
Okay, Wick.
oh, you're
If-
talking about me being clipped. I'm like, what do you mean?
Okay.
We're not on Twitter. Okay, no, I understand.
Duh.
Hold
Wait,
on, the Ice Beans. To address your
like,
point.
Let
Wait,
me
this is worse than the
lay out
ramen
my
scandal,
question.
I'm
Let
gonna
me
say
lay out
that.
my question.
L-
My question
Lay
is,
up your question again.
yeah. My question is, there is an issue of a Epstein idea. It's happening whether you like it or not. Okay. Now you're the person who is the anti-populist guy. Guide us out of this hellhole.
Well,
Lead
one
us
of the reasons that
out
we're
of
in the
this
hellhole
murky
that we are,
waters without
sure, one of the
engaging
reasons that we're
populism.
in the
Go ahead.
hellhole that we are is that
Mhm.
because Trump and his cronies ran on the populist rhetoric of the Epstein files, right? That's what they ran on. They created this beast and they put forth all these different like conspiracy theories about what the like Bill Clinton was a secret sex fiend that was
Okay,
raping
yes,
kids, and
We know
the
how we got here. Get us out.
Clinton, like Hillary Clinton was drinking blood. This was all connected to the Epstein files and things like that. And this rhetoric, this rhetorical beast that through populist rhetoric, the elites are literally taking children to an island to destroy them. Like created a
No,
beast
we
that
understand
is
that.
currently
Get me out.
destroying them.
Get us
Does
out.
Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's bill, is this doing more harm than good?
What good has it done?
Yes.
Oh my god.
What good has it done? Well, hold on.
Yeah, what
Paul,
good
you can
has it
answer
done?
after. But what
Who's
bad has
been
it done when it's like,
arrested
hey,
because
let's try
of
to
that?
be transparent and expose the people
well,
who
well,
have
wait,
raped
It
kids?
has
I don't know.
disclosed the
Maybe it
names.
gives the
Disclosed the
transparency of
names.
the voters that can
Disclosed
decide
the
whether or
names
not
of
the people
innocent-
who
release
rape
the
kids are
Disclose the
bad and they
names of
shouldn't.
innocent men
Yeah,
who were
because
not
of
sexual
incompetence.
predators.
Because of
I don't want to be on
incompetence.
Twitter, goddamn.
Because of incompetence. Because of utter neglect. Seriously, this
Utter
is
neglect.
Wait,
It
Tolly,
was
which
Ro
innocent
Khanna
men?
who said the people's names.
They were
I
Which
don't
innocent
have their
men?
names.
ordered to
In,
redact
I don't
the
have their
names, and
names
they
in front
don't-
of me.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
they were
well, I
ordered
guess it's not
to
that
Ro
redact
bad.
the
Khanna
names
said
of
the names on the floor himself.
the
Literally, it
people.
came out of
You
his
realize that-
mouth.
You realize that it is the DOJ's fault that these victims' names are out there, correct? You realize
We're not talking
that,
about victims here.
Then what the hell are you talking
And I'm
about?
sorry. Yeah, it is okay for these people's names to be out there if they are putting their name on the record
and do you think that
they're
do you
also
think
like
that-
full grown
do you think that
adults
the
now.
perpetrators' names should also
And if they're
be named?
seeking damages.
Do you think that the perpetrators'
Yes, there were
names should
people who
also
were
be-
not yes, you want to know the
Those people's
perpetrators?
names
Jeffrey
were
Epstein.
censored. You know that those people's names have been censored out of the
No,
Epstein.
except
Have you
they
looked at any- have you
haven't. Again,
actually
and
looked-
there
have
are
you looked
two
at any of the Epstein
specific
files?
Yes.
Have you looked at any? Okay, all right.
Wait, do you think
Thank you.
Jeffrey
That's
Epstein was the only one who did anything with minors?
He's the only one that we have any real evidence for, yeah.
And why
Have you
do
seen
we
the
only
Epstein
have-
file with the fucking Excel sheet
have
of all
not
these girls'
seen-
names and whether or not they're
Wait,
underage? There's a
wait,
column for like yes,
wait. I
no,
wanna-
and there's
Okay,
clearly at
so
least
fine.
one
So
other
Psycho,
person
who else?
involved.
Hold on,
Who
hold on.
else?
You
Okay,
guys
no,
keep
no, who else?
interrupting.
Don't give us
Look,
names.
you guys
Oh,
stop,
I'll name
stop.
the names.
Stop.
But are you gonna
Stop.
defend these people as innocent?
Stop.
I'll start naming
Wait.
the names. Let's go. Howard Lutnick. Okay. Are you okay with that one?
Please.
Or should I not name his name?
And what's your evidence that he assaulted small children?
I don't
Please,
have
Soy,
evidence
please.
that he assaulted a specific small children. I have all of the evidence that
Okay.
he associated with Epstein, got massages, lied about it, and this guy just happened to get a lot of sex trafficked massages, but maybe these were just the normal massages. I don't have proof of it, but to say that this is doing more harm than good by associating these people who were with a convicted pedophile that uses his massages to rape kids, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but you seem to think it's worse than good.
You're like entirely overstating the case of what any of the facts prove here. I don't see how anyone in America Yes, why do you keep
I
saying
tried
that?
so
Except I
hard.
have.
Because
Watch a lot of
no,
Michael
not sure
Tracy.
what
why,
makes
why
you
are
so
you under the impression?
confident.
Why are you under the impression that there's at least not enough to do it like an investigation?
Because the
Shouldn't you be happy
government
the
has
bill
had this information
exonerated
in a
these innocent men?
bipartisan manner with
Okay, and
Democratic
they've been going
administrations and
through.
Republican
They
administrations.
they
And
put
so again,
Ghislaine
unless you
Maxwell
believe
behind
that the deep
bars.
state is
They put
yes, exactly.
they
So
put Maxwell behind
the
bars.
reason
They
that
put Epstein
if
behind
you would stop
bars.
speaking for 1 second, you asked why do I not believe that there's room for all of these extra investigations? Because the government has had all of this information, and I trust our institutions, especially if we're going to talk about across several administrations that are Republican and Democratic. I trust that they were not all lying and trying to protect pedophiles. That's
If
why.
Bill
Okay.
Clinton was as
I
good
don't have
friends with Jeffrey
populist brain
Epstein, do you
rot.
think he'd have
That's
an
why.
incentive to
Hold on,
not
hold on. You don't got to be
investigate?
populist to think that you
Keep
don't
going,
trust the
Gibbs,
institutions.
please.
Hold on.
With a
I don't
little
trust the
incentive?
institutions at all. I don't trust the institutions at all, and I wouldn't call myself a populist. Like, I don't think that's another inherent.
You're a
thing.
Trump voter.
But
You're a
it's like,
Gibbs,
populist.
I
Let's
think
be
you're
fair.
a populist.
You're a populist.
Nah.
But, I'm using it pejoratively when I talk to
Gibbs
you.
a populist?
You'll just
One
don't
in
understand
chat.
Texas history.
One's in chat if you think Gibbs
Lick.
is a populist, two is not. But Soypil,
Lick.
can you ask Tali's question again and let Tali answer? Or can you ask
Which
the
question?
question? You had a
Oh,
question
do you
for
think
Tali,
do
and
you
then
think
Gibbs
it's ultimately
answered, and I don't know
bad
why
that this
he
came
didn't.
out because so many innocent men are being smeared? That's the reason it's worse than it is good?
I just don't see if you could show me that it had benefits that outweighed innocent people potentially having their names smeared, then maybe I would agree with you. But I don't really see like what extra steps have been taken or who has been
Well, I don't know what your
protected
bias
in
is
the
because
release of
obviously
these
you're a Trump
millions of
voter, but I think it's
documents.
shown very clearly that Trump was just bullshitting the entire time when he hires these people that are saying we're going to expose all the pedophiles when, he himself and a lot of his close cabinet members are involved to very similar, if not more extents. And also, we don't know everything that we should know because he's blocking the release of the stuff that we really do want to look at. So, yeah.
So that I think is largely overstated. I think everyone, again, this is like how conspiracy theories work, right? It's like you get all the information and whatever
What did I say that was conspiratorial?
evidence, hold on, whatever evidence you need must be in the one piece of information that we
I
don't
didn't say
have
that.
yet,
I said
right? So people are
what did I say
assuming-
that was conspiratorial? There's
Okay,
lots of stuff that has already come out that
I'm
is
saying that
absolutely fucking
leads-
damning. So
Yes, I agree. And Soipel, I completely agree with you that Trump was the one riling people up with this. He was pushing a lot of the conspiracy related to the Epstein stuff. And of all
he
of
wasn't
the
actually.
politicians,
It was his administration. He said I don't want to release them because he knows he's in them.
he said
All over them.
different things at different times. That's not entirely true. Before the election, he was certainly he's leaned in and out of it at different times. But let me take it one step further. Of all of the politicians, I think Trump is obviously had the closest relationship with Epstein. They were obviously personal friends for a long period of time. So
Okay.
I have no reason to deny that at all. I still think that largely
you can't.
the Sure, and I wouldn't because it's just obviously true. Again, he was by far the closest with Epstein, had the longest standing relationship with Epstein, and it is a lot of the retards and conspiracy theorists around him who made this into the issue that it is today. And I think the left has just cynically jumped on board with that. But I don't see how like any victims have been protected or the country is any better place because we have spent all of this time on what I ultimately believe to be a moral panic. There is no people still believe that there's a cabal of wealthy and powerful pedophiles in our country, and that's not true. And it's sad.
There was
actually,
just one.
That belief.
He was
there
the
you go.
exception.
No,
Diddy, don't forget
Just
about
one
Diddy.
guy. Maybe two. I'll say there's at least two
This
pedophiles.
used to be
only trafficked
this
him to
type of
himself. Are you
rhetoric
seriously
used to be the
believing that
domain.
lie?
This rhetoric used to be the domain of QAnon, and now, unfortunately, it's the domain of like regular everyday life.
Why is that, Sally? Why is that?
Yeah, why did it become more regular?
Why did it become more regular? I just
Because it's a useful political tool. I don't even like.
Well,
I mean,
also
I understand you
maybe
guys
there's
don't
like
agree with me,
continued
but
and
I don't think I'm
exposed
saying
evidence
anything
that is
crazy
not
here.
just based
Holly,
on
you are
conspiracies of
saying
like, wow,
bad
these guys all kind of knew about this and were related to it and maybe have been lying about it. We can look at direct contradictions from the files and their personal statements. And so maybe there's not this
then we should
crazy
then
conspiratorial
then
beliefs
we
to
should
say that some of these
we should
people
be
were involved in the
say
sex
something?
then
trafficking.
we should be
Ollie, I have an
asking
answer.
Can I say something to the
why
fuse?
Okay, okay, enough,
I have
enough.
an
One
answer.
at a
why
time.
My hand
Finish,
just
Holly.
raised.
our
Holly
government
can finish
chose
her
to
point.
ignore all of this.
Holly can finish
Uh,
her point, and then once she's done,
Sure.
you can ask your question, Ice Beans. You can ask your question, Joe, and then
Thank
Deb
you.
wants in here. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm done.
Okay, she's
I
done.
don't know what else there is
Go
to
ahead.
say. Yeah.
Tali, the reason that things have been slow is because historically speaking, before Trump admin came along, the DOJ needs a very solid case before they will move forward with indicting somebody and convicting somebody. That's it. That's been their modus operandi for years. Okay.
So they don't have a
That's good.
solid
I get-
case?
No, here's no. Did I say that? No? Okay.
Well, you said the
So-
reason
kind of
that they
implied
haven't
it.
done it
Getting
and that
back-
it's been
getting back-
slow is
getting
because
back to
thank
what
you.
I'm
You
saying,
implied it.
getting
Shorter way
back
of
to what I'm saying, a lot of if you look
Okay,
at
get
the
back
Epstein
there.
files with them more than just like the spicy things that you see or like from news articles that come out about it, there's absolutely enough to run an investigation, maybe not enough to get a solid slam dunk conviction. And in that case, the DOJ might be reluctant to pursue that. That's not to say that these people didn't do that shit. There's enough.
Sure, it's that we
suspicious
don't
behavior.
have
There's
strong enough
You're
evidence.
you're actually just like everything is just going in one ear and going out the other.
I feel like I'm listening to the exact words you're saying.
No, you're not. But and somehow you're still saying them back to me wrong. How is that? Seriously.
Wait,
You
Ice
said
Beans,
the
let me
reason
ask
that they have
Tali a
not
question real quick.
prosecuted-
Trump is the one.
Tali,
Mm.
Tali, if you didn't know, someone was accused of rape, and they make all of these distractions and excuses and alibis, and then you have a document that does not prove that they raped this person, but it proves that everything that they've been saying as their excuse has just been a lie. Do you think it's good that the people get to see this evidence?
I don't know like who the people are, but yeah, sure, in theory.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. All right, that's all we're saying, right? So if just because the Epstein files might not directly have a smoking gun that allowed the DOJ to prosecute some of these people, it's very clear that it is completely exposing that their narrative up until this point for the past 10, 20 years has just been completely fabricated. They've been lying about it. Now, maybe they're lying because they know it looks bad and they just don't want to look as bad. That could be the case, but it definitely shows that they've been lying, and it's important for the people to know that. And I don't think that's worse just because some innocent men might get implicated in it, which I don't think has happened yet. So,
I mean, just to throw one other thing. I mean, with Diddy going down too, that's a very large, influential group of people. I mean, it's pretty clear there's a reason why all this is coming up in the news over and over again. It sounds like Alex Jones is right. Next, you can tell me there's vampire child slave colonies
Oh
on Mars.
Lord.
This to be true.
Okay.
I'm not
$5.
Well, no,
$5
Gibbs
from Audacity.
actually.
Just real quick. $5 from Audacity. And I want to hear what Dev has to say. He likes to
What?
come on here and say not a lot. $5 from Audacity.
Eating.
This conversation is populist. No, it's not.
You
$5
just gonna
from
skip me?
Audacity
It is.
again to say, is Halo populist? You fight a lot of elites in that game. Fair enough. Dev, then Joe.
Damn.
I don't know, man. I'm just sitting here brain rotting away. I thought this was gonna be a completely different conversation, but okay.
Look, we try what we try. Go ahead, Joe.
So I was listening to you guys, and like, there's when you say populism, as in the people are identifying a problem that actually exists. Fair enough, right? But when I heard the prompt, Wick, I thought we were talking about populism dissolving social trust, populism dissolving trust in institutions, and that's where the problem actually lies, right?
Yes.
Because you have people who distrust institutions because they see outcomes and they think that the institution is corrupt or the outcome is bad, and then they blame the institution itself. But then when those outsiders get into the institution and they actually get a good look at it for themselves, they realize it's usually actually not corruption. Sometimes it is, but usually it's not. Usually it's the fact that they were on the outside and that made them ignorant of how the institution functions. A great example of this is that Dan Bongino guy, whatever his name is, where how he kept talking about, he was a full Epstein believer, then he got inside and he was like, oh yeah, it turns out that Epstein actually did just kill himself. And then, he got destroyed by his own audience because, well, populists don't like to believe that sort of thing. But he's a great example of what I'm talking about. And the only way to fix this problem is education, right? Because the less educated you are, the more opaque an institution appears, even if the institution's transparent, because uneducated people can't understand institutions from the outside. Even if like if you go to someone who has no idea how anything works or how the world works or anything, and you show them all of this data saying, "Hey, look, we're actually not corrupt," they're not going to understand it. The only way to solve the populist problem is education, and it takes a long time. It takes decades.
But
Okay.
I think, Dev, I think everyone here agrees more or less that populism isn't like, I don't think anyone here is like super pro populism. It's more so a case, for at least for me, and I know for at least other people, it's more about harnessing what populism is going, like, populism is going to factor in whether we like it or not. And so it's about like harnessing it, get like, what are good ways that can be, at least to get people
Sure.
who know how
But
to do
ice
good
beans,
governance, who
ice
shore up
beans,
institutions.
$10.
I
Just
know
real
what you're
quick.
saying.
Like the
Just
whole
real quick.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
hold on,
just real quick.
real quick. The point, at least my point, right, is to, like, I'm fine with using populism, get somebody in who can actually respond to the needs of the American people, and
Racism's
therefore
always going to be with
prevents.
us, so we might as well
Yeah,
use it,
sure.
right?
No,
I don't know
wait.
what you meant by
Racism's always
that.
going
I
to be
don't
with us.
know.
Might
I
as
do
well use
not
it,
know
right?
what you meant. I do not know what you meant by that.
So no, see,
But
here's
No,
so
because
hold
I
on,
your whole
know
hold on,
argument.
what
Ice
you're
beans,
saying.
hold on, hold on,
I know
hold
what
on.
you're saying, Ice
Your
beans.
whole
I'm
argument,
gonna
your whole
slide. I'm just
argument,
gonna
your whole
slide by
argument, your
that.
whole argument, your whole argument is that populism might not be the greatest, but it's there, so we might as well use it. I am
No,
saying
You
I'm
you can
think
make
saying,
the
populism is as
same
bad as
one-to-one
racism?
argument
yeah,
with
no, I'm
racism.
not saying.
God, Soy,
No,
come on,
I'm
man.
saying, hold on.
Just milk
I
it.
agree.
It can be
that
soy
I
pills.
think
Sometimes
it
it's
can be
worse.
worse. It can
Depends.
be
I can.
It
significantly
depends.
worse.
Populism can be
Oh.
worse
Much
than
worse.
racism.
Yes,
Probably.
Yes.
Technically.
absolutely.
This is
Yes.
technically
It can.
true.
Okay. Yes, it is bad, but what that doesn't mean
Thank you
that
so
we
much.
can't utilize some aspects of it to get people who can do good governance, who can shore up our institutions, so that
Like
a future
racism, we can do
populism.
the same with
Oh
that
my
Wick,
too.
God!
Wick,
If you interrupt my
Wick, I don't know.
point
I don't
one
know
more
what. I don't know what
time,
this one, Wick.
I'm never gonna. Okay, can I speak now?
my whole point is that
Oh, sorry, Ice Beans.
if you get somebody who actually addresses the needs of the American people, you reduce the extent to which a future populist movement can actually take root. Like, imagine, like,
But
of course, there's
that's utopianism. Like the reality is that
no.
systems
I don't know what
aren't
that one,
perfect. There will
Tally.
always
No,
be
I'm not talking
inequities.
about. No, I'm not talking about utopianism. I'm talking about. There's absolutely been people in this country who have become president and have done good things for the country. That doesn't mean it's a utopia. It means we're heading in the correct direction. Like, are you against that?
Certainly, no,
Then
no. Of course, I agree with
okay,
that. But
yeah,
I thought, but
okay.
the point, I think this idea, that like if you just get in like the right politician or whatever, the right
Well, that's the
administration,
whole
then we'll
point.
be able to kill populism because people will be satisfied. People
No,
are
I'm not
always going to
saying.
be dissatisfied with something.
I'm not saying
Populism.
that we
Hold
can
on.
kill it.
Let me just. Sure. Listen, I think you and I largely agree. I'm just trying again to Wick's point. I'm trying to argue why I don't think that we should engage in the rhetoric, even if it's useful in the short term.
Well, Wick, let me ask you this. In
But how can you
2024,
even?
there was a
Damn it.
populist rhetoric of frustration with the economy, and Democratic strategy was, no, you're wrong. These graphs show that you're wrong. And they're technically right. The economy was not nearly so bad as people thought and felt. But it didn't matter. There was a populist narrative that things were fucked. We're getting fucked. Our cost of living is going up. Inflation's bad. Eggs suck. And no matter how good there are, graphs of the consumer price index and like all these other things that actually show it's really improving and doing really well, that doesn't matter. Should they have capitalized on that and tried to funnel this rage at the system into an actual practical policy platform, or should they have done what they did, which I don't think worked, which was to say, no, you're wrong?
Sure, it didn't work in this case, but I think it was the correct move. Like, I think that over the long term and consistently, the method that they used usually works. So if it's something has an 80% success rate, I'm going to do it, right? Because 80% of the time it works. Pointing to the one or two times where a strategy that is proved to work fails does not disprove the strategy in and of itself. And one of the problems that MAGA is having right now is that they engage in the populist rhetoric to make people believe a thing that was not true. And then they're trying to fix the problem that they said that existed, that did not exactly exist. And it turns out they can't actually fix anything. And, well, they're going to lose generationally in a biblical manner. They are never going to hold power again for a long, long time after this election, right?
unless they
Why would
gerrymander the
we
way to
do that?
victory,
You
which
Why
is
would we do
happening.
that?
assume
Can I go now?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I mean, my Twitter was so peaceful. That was smart. He just muted and chilled the fuck out. I should have done that. I should have just went off screen over that passive defending.
No,
of the
you're
Epstein
not going
files.
to be canceled because I died on the Epstein Hill. I
But
promise.
white women evil, bro. I get it. So
It's up to you
okay.
guys.
So something that I just don't. I don't know. I think we agree on this, but I'm not exactly sure. One of the things that I'm deeply concerned with when it comes to populism is the idea of these like fixed us versus them, right? This idea of like a common person versus elite. I mentioned this in my opening, right? That these groups don't actually exist stably and they move and change over time. And Wick, it just sounds like to me that you think that there's a politic that is possible where we cannot constitute a political antagonist. It just sounds like you're saying that like there's a politic that is possible that a political antagonist doesn't have to emerge to get the things that we need to get done.
I
We
don't
have a
And
think that
built-in political antagonist.
are
It's the
you Wick,
two-party
Tolly?
system.
Tolly, are you Wick? Are you
It's a
Wick?
two-party system. Like
Are
the
you Wick?
Dems can go and they can be
Spiritually
Are you
antagonized
Wick?
by the Republicans and
You
vice
are.
versa.
okay.
I appreciate your transition, Wick.
$10
I love it.
first
I
of
don't
all.
know who this
I'll
man on the
answer your
bottom of the
question in a
screen
second.
is now.
I'll answer your
Okay.
question in a second. $5 from No Aeon to say, sounds like populism has similar sentiments to basic U.S. ideals, e.g., power corrupts, checks and balances, and of the people, by the people, for the people, etc. I disagree, but we'll get into that when I answer to Joe's question. And then $10 more from Pondering Politics to say, okay, I'm trying to catch up. But when Joe goes, can he be allowed to explain what he means by populism without people interrupting him? Question mark?
I did it earlier. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. I think
Should I
it's another
appease? Should
Joe.
I
The people want
appease
more,
our
But
Lord
Joe.
and
to answer
Savior
your question,
Josiah?
Joe, to answer your
Okay.
question,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with you that every time there's an antagonist, that means it's populism. I can look and point to, like, for example, I think that uh, the tax system in America is broken and it rewards certain people it shouldn't reward. And I can attack that and have that be my antagonist, but not do so in a populist manner. That is possible. And I think it's been done before and it will be done again. So to answer your question, I don't I don't necessarily disagree that you have to have something you're fighting to change, right? An antagonist, if you will. I just don't agree with the framing that would make it populist.
Should I appease our Lord and Savior Josiah?
I guess if you want
Okay.
to.
So for me,
I think he was trolling. But
was
this is
trolling.
incredible if you
He was
really go
trolling.
do it.
Okay, that's
He was
why.
trolling.
That's why I
Oh,
asked.
Lordy.
That's why I asked.
I want to say that one thing.
I was
right?
going to
So-
respond to what Wick was saying.
Oh, go
Please,
ahead.
for the love of God, y'all like interrogate Ty for like 30 minutes. My pushback here, Wick, is that the us versus them is inevitable. It's not going to be an individual person. It's not going to be an individual institution. It's always going to be something. That something doesn't have to always be just a person, just a group, X, Y, or Z. So, like when I'm looking at the Epstein class, when I hear people say the Epstein class, and this is a question for you, Tolly. Like when I see people talk about the Epstein class, what I'm observing is people observing a network of powerful people insulated from accountability through wealth, influence, and institutional connections. Is that like a fair way, if someone were to say the Epstein class, that they could frame it as that? Is that something you think that they might see it as?
I think they're wrong, but yeah, sure. I think that's what they see. Like to say no accountability for Epstein. I mean, the man died in prison.
Hold on. I didn't say
Like
no accountability. I said a
you
network
said
of
that's what the
powerful.
people believe.
No.
Right.
I'll
Who
run it
are
back
who
to you
are
again.
going
I'll run it back to you again. You're just
don't
wrong.
need to. It's okay. It's okay. I don't
It's not.
okay. Okay.
I said it was a
I
network
can
of
accept
powerful people insulated
it
from
again.
accountability through wealth, influence, and institutional connections. If we were
Insulated
to,
from accountability. Okay, so you did say it, and so my point
I
stands,
didn't
but
say
it's fine.
no. You can be insulated from something and still have it affect you. COVID-19.
Okay.
So, you're disagreeing with the idea that the Epstein class exists?
It's not a useful heuristic. Like it just helps feed conspiracy and
Who is part of the
grievance.
Epstein class? That's what I'm really curious about. Is Chuck
I
Schumer a part of the Epstein
Howard
class?
Lutnick.
I
Howard
would
Lutnick. Really
argue.
easy. Howard Lutnick.
Well, I'm
would
asking
argue.
Joe. Joe,
I
is
would
Chuck
argue.
Schumer part of the Epstein class?
Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, it does not seem to be that he is the constituted opposite that belongs in the Epstein class. I
Okay.
would argue, however, that Donald
Who
Trump
does?
is.
Okay, fair
Donald
enough.
Trump.
So why not just say Donald Trump? Why the Epstein class is so vague is my problem with the term, right? It's so vague,
Which is why
people use
they're recognizing a network of powerful people insulated from accountability through wealth, influence, and institutional connections. If we believe this to be the case, and the evidence seems to suggest that this is the case, it's important to know what is this phenomena that they're observing. Is this the actual phenomena? And I think what happened in practice was that the way that the government tried to reveal this information to the public had more questions than it gave answers, right? The fact that there are individuals that we don't know the extent of their involvement in this thing. We don't know if they're actually part of the network or not. Like I think that's the confrontation here. That's the them.
When
It's
Cenk
not-
Uygur is calling someone the Epstein class, do you think that's what he means?
Yes.
I don't.
Wait, who do you think he means?
I think he means his political
They
enemy.
mean rich, powerful Zionists. That's what most people mean, essentially, by the Epstein
just
class.
gets
my!
worse.
Rich,
It just gets
powerful
worse.
Don't tell me,
Zionists.
Tali. Please don't tell me that you think that all this Epstein files thing is a big like Zionist conspiracy.
Listen,
No,
before
but
Tali goes,
that's
I-
obviously part of it.
What's your
It's
why are you
obviously part of
characterizing?
it.
Why you why you
Because
Because
characterizing
that
it?
is what
that's how
people-
Cenk
that is what
Uygur
people use
characterizes it.
Yes.
Because Cenk
Okay.
Uygur is fucking crazy. Like
Yes.
that's
Is
not
Cenk Uygur- is
the
Cenk Uygur the
defining member of
unified
who
truth?
uses the term
Thank you,
Epstein
sir.
class. He didn't even
Like-
found the term.
I think he coined the term, didn't he?
Actually,
Am I
so,
correct?
No, I think
wait,
Rokana
let me
did.
give you.
May I-
wait,
may I-
quick. Wait, can I ask another question? Because I might agree with you here.
Okay, go
Do
ahead.
you
I would
think
like to go after the next
that
question.
Yes, you can go after
do-
that, Gibbs. Ask
one
your
of the
question.
problems that MOOF lays out is that there needs to be a consistent narrative against whatever the opposite is? It's not just enough of having an opposite, it's enough of having, there's a few different steps about this. And it's not only about the opposite, it's about the narrative that exists within the opposite to correctly identify what the problem is. Do you think that is happening in the case with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein?
So when it comes to MOOF specifically, it's been a couple years since I read her book. I think it came out in 2018. I read it in 2019.
Whoa, I'm talking about hegemony. I'm talking about hegemony.
Hegemonic, not so. I'm talking about her earlier works, not her most recent. Oh, not her most recent. That I'm not as familiar with it. The only thing I know about her is the book she wrote in 2018.
Okay.
So,
well, the point I'm trying to make here is that one of the things that she lays out that like positive social change emerges from not only having a constituted opposite, but a proper narrative that exists within that constituted opposite.
Sure, messaging is important. I would agree with that.
Right. Do you think that the messaging within something like the Epstein files produces someone like a Tali?
I don't know what you mean by that. Can you elaborate on what you mean by produces someone like a Tali? What is like a
Tali? Has run
give me a
defense.
Tali adjacent figure.
Tali has run defense over the Epstein files and the very idea of the Epstein class through that entire portion of the conversation. Do you think that's a manifestation of an improper narrative from people who are against the perceived Epstein class? Or do you think that something else is happening there?
I think that you guys have different ideas of what the Epstein class is or should be.
Do you think that exists in a broader sense to people who identify the Epstein class?
Yes, I do not think that most people fundamentally understand what let me say it this way. I think if you say the Epstein class, you're going to have a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas of what that means. So even just a simple definition of powerful, rich, connected individuals that are insulated from accountability because of their power, that also in many ways applies to someone like Cenk Uygur, right? So when people hear the Epstein class, they do not fundamentally like it's just too vague of a term to be very useful outside of a political animosity kind of like these are the bad guys. And that's what it is. It's a
Do
shorthand
you
for
think-
Yes.
someone you don't like.
It is. These
so-
are the. It is
wait,
literally
wait,
these are the bad
Wait,
So-
when
guys.
you say the
Please.
Epstein
Okay.
class, I'm not saying that the. Actually, go ahead, Gibbs.
Yeah,
No,
Gibbs.
no, you're fine. I just here's my issue, right? And I really want to come back to what Dev was just kind of talking about right here. Y'all talking about the Epstein class. I'm sure that we could come up with some nebulous definition of whether it's a Zionist, whether it's just rich billionaire elites. I don't really give a shit. All right. And I'm gonna be honest. When we're sitting here talking about the populism thing, I think there's a much more interesting convo to be had, right? And which is okay, when the checks and balances in the system fails you as the people, what do you do? Right. And so what we've seen right now is okay, we the people, since earlier somebody said mob rule. Right? I have sat here for a while, and I don't think you have to be inherently populist to not trust these institutions. Y'all have sat here, some of y'all have, and said, woo, institutions good, specifically Devin and Tally here. And I'm going, I don't think they're inherently good or bad. However, when I asked Wick about bureaucracy, he agreed maybe gutting some bureaucracy would be populist, right? And I think this is important. At some level, I'm going, hey, I'm glad Trump is in here gutting some of these industry, these like organizations, because he's in there and he's making it more efficient. We're getting rid of some of the bloat. This is what happens with any business. You get a business too big, and then you have to trim it down, and then it grows again, right? You see this with deforestation, right? Sometimes you got to burn, you got to regrow, do a part of it. And so when I'm sitting here saying, oh, we need to go gut some of these, that's not necessarily not popular. That's not necessarily populist. It's like, it's something that we, the people, I guess it is populist in this current time setting because we're going, and I guess like when y'all were sitting here with Bernie, y'all want to expand it, but now y'all are sitting here so stuck on which class is what. Like, what are we talking about here? Are we going to talk about the systems? Like, what are we talking about? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Well, Gibbs, real quick, Gibbs.
Give it
I'll
to
just
Dev
say,
first. Go ahead.
I'll just say, Gibbs, Trump is not doing any of the things that you just said he was doing.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
No,
There's no inefficiencies being cut. It's all
He's cleaning out the Tammany
he's
Hall.
making it
No,
more
he's not. He's
inefficient.
making things
He's
more
making
inefficient.
More inefficient.
Because it's a short-term inefficiency
Sorry. No.
to get new
no.
efficiency.
We just fired about 200 State Department diplomats.
Good.
People who. Oh, great. Then why are we rehiring for their same positions right the fuck now?
Why? Because
from
those people had to go. They were doing their job inefficiently. Get rid of
Oh
her.
my god, are you fucking joking?
Now it's
Wait,
all
you-
in the news.
you-
No,
okay,
I'm
you-
just
okay,
serious.
thank you.
Guys, have you met Gibbs before?
Gibbs.
Yeah.
Thank you for illustrating that you do not know what the meaning of the word efficient is.
Okay,
That's
Dev.
I run
Dev, I want
sentences
Dev
in
to
businesses,
finish.
and we do this all the time.
Damn
I don't know what
This
you're
is
talking about.
ridiculous.
So
There are
basically,
people who could
Gibbs.
there
Hold on,
there could
iTunes,
be people-
calm yourself.
There
Calm
are
yourself.
people,
Dev's trying to
there are
answer the question.
people who could be
no.
working in the Middle East right
You're just
now
gonna go.
who have
Okay.
all of the qualifications, all of the experience, all of the language training,
Yeah.
all of the fucking years of experience. They're gone.
And they
now we're
were
hiring-
failing, so get them out. Yeah, fuck 'em.
No, you don't know
How are
why.
they
No,
failing?
you
This
don't.
is-
No, wait.
No, I
hold
mean,
on.
yeah, first
Wait,
Iran
what-
deal, utter
do you know
failure.
the first thing? Do you know the first thing
Yes.
about these cuts? You don't.
Oh, yeah,
You just think that
fire
you
'em.
just think that Trump has been making them efficient. No, if you hire, okay, I'm just
In fact, hire
saying.
him back, fire him again.
If
for emphasis.
you, no, that's not how that's working. They're not rehiring those people. They're saying
I know they're
that
not.
those
Thank God.
positions. They're saying that those positions weren't needed. Got rid of those people and are now rehiring for those exact same positions new people. Now tell me.
Yeah, that happens a lot
Is
in
that
business. You got to
efficient?
get rid of the old. Well, it's because
Is
they
that
found out the
efficient?
position wasn't. No,
That's
yeah,
not
it is efficient. I'll
You
explain how it
don't
is
know what
efficient real quick.
efficiency is.
I
You don't know
I
what
do know. I do know what
efficiency
efficiency
is.
is.
You don't know.
Listen, I know offense.
Please tell
No
me you're not a
offense. I don't
small
know. I
business
run.
owner.
Okay,
Holy
okay, we
fucking
can't-
shit.
we can't
Hold
look.
on.
I
I'm gonna
What
pray
you do
for
is
your
you
small
fire- when you
business.
fire- hold
Oh,
on, when you
fucking
fire
shit.
people, when
I
you fire
pray for
people,
your
you find out
employees.
a position is
Oh
needed.
my
and you hire.
God.
The reason why you're
Holy
failing
shit, you
is because
do
someone's
not
doing that
know
position
how to run a
poorly.
business.
Instead, they hire someone to actually can do that position.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I
Great.
mean, I do
I
it
don't
all the
like
time. I
having
do a
to
good
mute,
job of
but
it.
I
so.
will. Okay, great. I'm going to give it to Gibbs. Let him answer the efficiency question. Then we're going to move on. That's what we're
Yeah,
going to do.
I mean, I absolutely agree. Sometimes you have to rehire people for a position you fire people for. That happens. Why? And it sucks. It does suck, right? But here's the thing. You fire somebody and you go, this position wasn't needed. Somebody can do the job of two people. Then you find out, oh, we did need that position. But this person was so bad at their job, they had to go. And that's then the case here. These people were
No.
dog shit at their job and they
No,
deservedly got
they're
fired.
not.
And it is
No, they're
wonderful. I'm
not.
excited.
You
Love
are
it.
actually a subhuman piece of garbage. You don't even know
Yeah,
why these
because-
people were fired.
Because fuck those
You
people. Yeah.
don't know. You don't know
my
how.
God.
You have no idea. You actually have
You're
no
right.
idea. Trump just says, "Oh, we needed to fire them. They were bad at their jobs," and you just swallow it down.
I've been
like
hold on,
some
I've been saying they were
fucking-
bad at their jobs
What
for 20
are
years.
you, some
so.
kind of pig? Are you?
Yeah,
just
no, Ice means you got to give him some credit. He was stupid far before Trump told him to believe
No,
this.
of
He's been
course.
dumb
No,
as
it's
shit.
like
Gibbs,
it's like
Gibbs, here, I got a
seriously,
question for you,
can
Gibbs,
have
okay?
a thought for yourself?
We gotta let
hold on,
Devin.
I've been saying this a long time.
We gotta let
So-
Devin.
so
here.
Gibbs,
Dev, go ahead.
In the past, it's been like a year and change since Trump's been into office, right? So in the past year and change, when Trump has been firing people and he's been saying, "I'm going to get people in there who are loyal to me," do you think selecting new recruits for loyalty is the same thing as selecting new recruits for efficiency?
I think it's absolutely both. It goes hand in hand because if you hire, I'll tell you why. If you hire somebody that's not loyal to you, then you're gonna have someone come in here and they're gonna fucking try to like you push a new policy. And if they don't disagree, they're gonna slow you down at every turn. So yeah, absolutely. And if you know American history, you know for basically the whole time, what we used to do is you'd come in here and you'd fire everybody from the last person. Hold on. This is actually historical. Maybe you should read some history books and you'll understand. But used to, the president would come in and he would fire everybody. Yeah, I do read the newspaper, and they'd fire everybody, and then they would bring in all the new people. I mean, you're telling me I'm wrong when I'm speaking about actual things that happened
You're
in history.
literally just slopping
You
it
tell
up.
me you're saying this didn't happen in the United States for
I'm
2
not
centuries?
saying any of that.
Like,
I'm saying you don't have an understanding of what is going on in the country right now. Why should I listen to you about history, bro? What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, okay, hold on. If
Like,
we're gonna do that, let's
seriously?
just open up our bank accounts and see which one's bigger, and then we can sit and go, oh,
How about you guys
Oh my
open up your
god!
bank
Oh
like,
account
that's
wow!
fucking
Oh, I'm
stupid.
so scared.
I'm not scared. I'm
For
just
the
saying,
two-
like,
okay.
if you're gonna do this,
What
like,
the fuck's
like,
going
you're gonna
on?
sit here, you're attacking my
Speaking of
personal
bank
history.
accounts,
What is
When I'm
speaking of
talking about
bank
like
accounts,
actual
speaking of
historical,
bank accounts.
you're making like
$20.
I'm just
Okay,
saying.
cool.
Go ahead,
No,
Rick.
you are fucking poor,
$20.
piss poor business.
You're the one
owners.
personally
Let
attacking me.
tell you.
I'm just saying.
Well, I'm trying to do super chats. Please let me do super chats. I gotta make a little money here. Sorry. $20 from no fucking way to say based Joe, based Gibbs. The Epstein class is Sionists. Steen was Mossad. Oh, Steen was Mossad.
What?
Rest my case.
Wait. On the topic of
$2.
Jews,
Let me
I want to ask
finish my
Holly.
money.
Wait, no, I need to ask Holly. No,
rest
this is more
my
important.
case.
Wait, because you're about to read a $5 super. Holly, if John Ossoff says Epstein class, do you think he's being like anti-Zionist or whatever? Like, I feel like he's pretty much not this like anti-Israel brain poisoned thing. Like he's
No,
not.
there are as I start. Well, he's certainly not he's not like pro-Israel, but no. As I said in the
program
very
glitch there.
beginning, I think people use populist rhetoric cynically for political power, and I think that that's what he's contributing to. So he doesn't need to be an anti-Semite in his heart to use tropes that are used as anti-Semitic dog whistles.
I don't hate women when I call them slurs, right? But I do it because it makes me money.
I mean,
You hate women.
$5 from the
Hold on,
last
wait,
bastion.
wait.
$5 from the
Wait,
last
can I slur
bastion
too?
to say, yeah, depends on the slur. Appeasement will never work. Look at Jenk calling the ACA a release valve. Any attempt at appeasement will be used by them to attack moderates later. And then $2 from Robert Paulson to say Epstein class is more like Robert H. Richards. Thank you.
Okay.
I do want to say that one thing, since we're talking about, what has Gibbs said before, I've said many times socialists are Nazis, right? And here we have a great example of a socialist using Nazi buzzwords to describe me. We use pig, subhuman. Man, where's counterpoints when you need them? But then we'd have all the Nazis. I mean, it's just crazy that you're going to sit here and you're going to try to like say with a straight
Yeah,
face.
it's
that, like,
because
that
what
I'm
you are
doing these
doing.
things.
It's
Hold
what
on,
you are
let me
doing
ask you this:
is
why did he fire
indistinguishable.
those people? You know why he fired them? You say specifically, 100%. You know why he fired every single one.
You know how I know
what?
what exactly the
Okay.
reason is for the
Let
firing?
Einstein's answer your
It's
question.
because I've seen the actual literal SF50s that indicates the resignation.
Oh, every single one.
The Turk. Yes, motherfucker.
Oh, every
What the
single
fuck do you think
one.
Wait, what do you think I do for a living?
Doesn't matter to me.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't
then
give a
why
shit.
are you even talking? You have
I'm
no
just sorry,
idea.
I'm
How would
every
any
single-
of us? How would
you
any
are
of us know what you do for a living?
Yeah, and why would I
Yeah,
care?
No,
I don't know
okay,
either,
every
to be
single one of
honest.
these
I don't know
firing slips.
assuming
Like,
that
yeah.
no, wait, Tali, no. Assuming that what they have been fired for is their performance. They have not been fired.
They can be
their
fired for any reason.
performance.
I don't give a shit if they got
It's
fired
the
if they
end-
look
and
funny.
then
I'm
if
just
I
saying
say-
we
if
have
I
no
say-
idea what.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
no,
that's
wait, Gibbs,
fine,
just wait.
that's
We can stop arguing. Gibbs admitted that he doesn't actually care
Yeah,
about
they need to be
performance.
fired.
He's just got this
It doesn't
dumb,
point, right.
retarded, bureaucratic,
I think-
anti-bureaucratic brain rot, and it's fine. We
I
can
think-
ignore
And
what he's saying.
and to
Yeah,
point,
so
though,
no,
I'm not
it's
calling.
they need to
I'm
be
not.
fired. They got fired.
To be clear, I'm not calling Gibbs a pig for no reason. I haven't even brought his weight into it. Okay, I'm just saying the reason
he brought
I'm
it
calling him
down.
a pig is
I mean,
because
if we're
he
gonna do
has
a roast off, I'm
literally
gonna roast the shit out
he
of you.
has
So just let me know if
literally-
we're gonna do
He
this.
has
Yeah, be shitty to
literally
women.
sat here
I mean-
and proven.
She's brown
I don't know
too.
how somebody gonna make a comment about someone's appearance with eyebrows like that. Jesus Christ! Somebody wax that shit. We got some cockroaches over here. God damn.
Okay. Both of you, stop. Yeah.
Hey, maybe get some hair product. Your hair's
No,
got
but
split
I
ends
said
in here.
both. Gibbs, shut up. Shut up.
Okay, so
Hold on.
Gibbs,
I'm telling.
Gibbs.
Hold on. I'm telling you both to just tone down the personal. Just a
Yeah,
smidge.
I mean, I didn't make any until after.
I understand,
Just
but
go.
please.
Okay, so
I don't
so
care
here.
who started it.
I'm not gonna.
It's like dealing with fucking kids. I don't care who first. Both of you stop doing it. Okay. There we
Dev,
are.
you look pretty tonight, Dev.
Oh, thank you very much.
Go ahead. Dev.
Do you like the bulge in my artwork? Is that what it is?
Oh God. Okay.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
You confirmed it. Thank
Jesus
you.
Christ.
Dude, okay. I saw somebody in Soy Pill's muted right now. I guess I can't say this to him until he unmutes or until he
Thank you for the 10
unheadphones himself.
gifted Wick subs,
It-
aka Patozai. Really appreciate you.
Okay, so Gibbs. Okay, here. This is gonna sound like I'm completely derailing. I am not. There's a reason for this question. Give me a short answer, okay? What is your problem with DEI policies?
DI specifically, I don't like the idea that people aren't going to get in there on merit over like just being chosen right. For example, on a
You
personal
just
level, I'm
proved
Hispanic.
Dev's point.
Hold on,
Well,
hold on.
just wait,
I know,
just wait.
like I'm Hispanic, right? And the idea that someone has to gift me a job is kind of appalling. I don't want to be given anything. I want to earn it, right? And so, like, do I agree with you? Asked specifically with Trump's DEI. I think you should have kept those people in there until he found replacements. But they've decided to fire him first, and then didn't replace them, right? Whatever. But either way, I don't think that we should be giving away things on race quotas. I think that's a bad way to do it.
Right. So the more sophisticated argument against DEI is that they're selecting for loyalty towards a political movement or a racial movement or something rather than their ability to do the job, right? We can say that
Loyalty is not the same as DEI.
If that's what DEI did, but it doesn't.
No,
So
it's not what
it
DEI
doesn't,
does.
but it isn't quite what it does. But still, that is the
It's the
argument that I
argument.
hear from right wingers. Okay, the
Sure,
issue
yes.
is
I mean,
that
I would hope that the left did this too, is put loyal people in their job. If you're hiring, say like I got hired by Obama to, I don't know, run a post office, and he fucking put out a postal service thing that I didn't agree with, I'd probably try to do it slower. You should probably hire people that are going to be loyal to your agenda. That just seems like
yeah, that's how you have a cult of
Can I ask
personality
you a
and a bunch of
question, Whit?
sycophants that
Like,
make you do
Not
a bunch of
yet,
shit that
not
you'll
yet,
never
not
get
yet.
questions, so
Dev
that's
Sorry,
has
Dev.
been. Hold on.
That's not what I'm
Dev,
talking
hold on.
about.
Dev had a
I
question for
That's- that's-
Soypill.
yeah.
Soypill, undeafened, graciously joining us back in the panel.
it was a joke question. Don't worry about it. The actual
No,
conversation
now
is
you got to ask it. You made me undeafen.
Okay. You at one point when I didn't, I was deafened. You were wondering about my artwork bulge.
Yeah, what's up with that? That's fucking weird.
I didn't draw it, man. I have no fucking clue.
You're
why it's
using
like
it.
this. I
The
am.
pants are tight.
Honestly,
Pants-
it kind of just looks like a fupa, to be honest.
I am pretty fat.
Damn.
It's giving vagina.
You know what? I will ask the artist to change it. You know what?
Okay.
Do not change
No, here's the
it.
thing.
Do not.
Well,
So-
I'm so glad I gave the floor to you to ask
To
that.
ask that.
Gibbs.
Yeah. So my actual question for Gibbs. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
here's the thing, right? When you talk about people who are excessively loyal, what they're bringing to a job is specifically their loyalty. They're selling their loyalty, right? People who are hyper competent don't need to be loyal because they're so good. They if they're fired from a job, they'll land on their feet and go somewhere else, right? So when you say Trump needs to hire loyal people, he's not going to get the most efficient workers. You can't hire for loyalty and competency at the same time. This is something
can't?
that actually. This is something that, in my opinion, right wingers understand more than left wingers because right wingers, the more intelligent ones.
Hold on.
Well, just wait,
Do you
let me
think that
let me
Dr.
finish this, let me-
Goebbels
let
was
me finish
intelligent?
this. Who? What?
What?
Do you think Dr. Goebbels was intelligent? Like,
Dr. Goebbels?
yeah, the
You mean Dr.
propaganda minister
Mengele?
for the Nazis.
Yeah,
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 you
yeah,
think
yeah,
he
sure.
was
Are you talking about
Have you been
Joseph
working on
Goebbels?
that?
Okay.
Have you
The
been
doctor?
working on
He
the
was-
pronunciation?
hold on. Do you think that
Michael?
he maybe was like one of the most influential all time in regard to propaganda? It was extremely effective. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Was he hired and put into his position for that ability solely, or was it because of also his loyalty?
Yes, it was also his loyalty. Yes.
So yeah. So
The-
you
the-
can be
these-
both,
these-
correct?
You can be both, but most people
Okay,
aren't going to
you're
be
holding it up
Goebbels.
as
You
a
can be both.
example
Look
of
at
good-
I'm
Goebbels,
just
guys.
using, I know. Hold on. I'm
That's
using
a
this
weird
as
thing.
a- I'm
I'm gonna
using
make
this
a little
as
bit of
a-
argument. Give it to Joe.
Look how good the Nazis
are
are.
Nazis, bro. Yeah, that's
Okay,
the
I'm
whole
gonna make
point.
I'm gonna make a little bit
Are
more. I'm gonna make a little bit of money, and then I'm gonna give it to Joe. Joe's been trying to get in here. Joe's been very, very good. And we're gonna give it to Joe as soon as I
Trying,
read this
man.
super chat. It's $20 from No Fucking Way to say Ice Beans bringing the signature woman approach, sign language, shame, insult, guilt need to be right.
Oh,
Soy
hell
pill.
yeah.
As a centrist,
You know his room
how can
stinks.
you help other plebes like me trust the institutions? And
As a
then
centrist, I mean, you can just point to the history of all the accomplishments they had. Look what happens when they're gutted and they're mistrusted. You can look at like what Doge did and say, hey, this is how the effects of our country are going to be felt for the next 30 years because dipshits in office think that the DOE is bad because they pushed DEI at one point, and show that like now we're just going to have disabled people like unable to get sufficient schooling. We're going to have like a complete disconnect between states and like federal government on like how education policy should work. You just have to point to the material effects that the Trump admin and all these other like dipshit populist tear down the institution people are doing and say, look, it just doesn't work empirically. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Dev when he was like, it is education. You can use populism, like I said, to do good things. But if you people don't understand what the consequences of some of these policies are, they're not going to learn and not repeat them. Case in point, Gibbs. So
Can I also I also
no,
wanna follow
no,
up
no,
on,
no,
wait,
not yet.
I wanna finish a follow up on what Soy Pill was.
Is it brief? Because Joe's trying.
Oh,
He's
okay.
being good.
No, well, okay. No, I mean, like, okay.
Cook ice.
It's
okay.
not brief. Then we're gonna give it to Joe. Hold on to
No,
it.
it's not gonna come back to me. That's my point. The point is it's not just, and these things have been happening for a very long time. Some of our institutions, the cracks in some of our institutions have been laid out for a very long time. The whole point, get you to lose trust in those institutions and then break them entirely, and then thereafter point at them and say they don't work. Why should you trust them? We should get rid of them. Case in point, the USPS. Classic example of a agency that has been kneecapped at several points in our history. And now you have Trump coming along at the 11th hour, and he says they need to go. Trump is not necessarily the problem. I think you should look at these things when you're looking at distrust in an institution. Look at its history. That's all I'll say.
Okay, Joe.
All right, Gibbs. Let's get it. So, do you believe that inequality equals oppression?
No.
Okay, I agree. I agree with you. So now that that's the floor, I'm asking you like 2 or 3 questions. Is that all right?
Sure.
I'm building an organization, and in my organization, I say I only want Black people because I believe only Black people are going to be loyal to the interests and different dynamics for my cause. Is that an inequality?
Is it a private organization or is my tax dollars paying for it? Because if it's private, then go ahead. Do whatever you want.
Let's say my tax dollars are paying for it.
Then, fuck that. I don't want my tax dollars to go to any kind of organization where it's like, just one mono group, I guess.
Or it's
So why
racist.
is that so is it
I don't want to go to the
oppression?
Klan. I don't want the money to go all to
If
the
I'm the
Klan
president,
either.
if I'm the president of the United States, and I'm going to say my entire cabinet is going to consist of Black people because I have a Black agenda, and I only believe that
Okay.
Black people will be able to forward this cause, is that an inequality? First question: is it an inequality?
Yeah, I guess it would be an inequality of some sort. Yeah.
Is it oppression?
I'd probably say no, because you won the election, you ran on this platform. If you got in there and you pick people that are qualified, then hopefully you pick loyal, qualified African Americans that are going to push your agenda. That would make sense to me.
So let's say a white person, we'll say Ash of Certainty, came to you and said, "This is
I don't know who that
bullshit.
is, but sure.
This is oppression to white
Nelson
people."
mentioned.
Is
Okay,
he
go ahead.
correct?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, it's a
Gelatinous
guy in my
rube.
community. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If Nelson came to you and a bunch of people came to you and said, "We as white people believe that this is oppression," would you believe them?
I'd say
They say this inequality exists. They're telling you this inequality exists and this inequality is oppression, and you would disagree with them?
I would tell them to cry me a river.
Gotcha.
Like,
what about you, Tyler?
I don't know. Like, what you want from me on that one?
That's fine. What about you, Tyler?
No, I don't think it's oppression. I think it's dumb, but not oppressive. That word is also like very It's very imprecise.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word
so-
oppression for it, but there's something
Right.
absolutely, I think,
It's illegal.
unfair. It's
Is it
unjust.
It's illegal.
Yes, it's unjust.
Is it-
Yes.
Why
I would
is
agree it's
why is
unjust.
it unjust?
Because you're taking equality. Hold on, you're taking the reason racism, and that's what it would be, is unjust is assuming the only people that can be loyal must share the same skin color or descendancy or ancestry that you.
I'm saying I have a pro-black agenda, and I only believe that black people are able to actualize this agenda due to the historical realities of black people in the United States.
Yeah, but
That's
that
my
would be
argument in saying that's just.
that would be an argument. I would disagree with that argument because I think that we can showcase plenty of people who would be able to fulfill your agenda and be loyal to that
Okay.
agenda who would not necessarily share your ethnicity.
Soy Pill and Dev, where do you stand on that before I drag Wick?
Yeah, basically, obviously, I can understand the sentiment. I know a lot of pro-black activists who are like, yeah, even if a white person agrees with my ultimate agenda, I might not necessarily think that they're going to contribute in the same way a black person would. But unfortunately, yeah, this is one discriminatory. It's racism, not in the same way that you would see other racism, but it is racism. I just don't. It doesn't really matter. But if you're doing a government institution, then you literally can't do this. You can't just hire people based on their race. That's illegal. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to hire people that have more of that background and more of that cultural relevance that can contribute to the project that you're trying to do if it's a specifically pro-black one.
Okay. Dev?
I mean, I'm a colorblind lib, so I'm not a fan of this. Sounds bad.
Wick, I'm the president of the United States. I said that I had a pro-black agenda, and I made sure that my cabinet reflected that pro-black agenda. The outcome is that it's all black people. You're arguing that it's unjust. How do you do it without populism? How do you solve for this problem?
How do I solve this problem without populism? I would say that the criteria that you use, that you just mentioned in this hypothetical, was race-based. That's not a populist critique. That's saying,
Something,
hey,
how do you solve
the
for this without
criteria
populism?
you used was manifestly
if it's not me versus, if it's not a people versus an
How do you
elite,
solve for that? How do you solve for that with populism? I feel like it's a nonsensical question. How do you solve for someone trying to illegally fill
the
his
the populist rhetoric for that? It wouldn't.
A lot of the things that were a lot of our press like have in some way relied on populism, making the argument without populism, cut out some of this populist rhetoric. I'm gonna have to explain how, for example, like this is why, by the way, I brought up the Epstein class thing. Okay, is how do you get us out of the zone? How do you get out of that problem without at some point invoking populism? When
Easy. It's easy.
What's the problem? Hold on. What's the problem?
Fix everything easy, Switch. Right?
Huh?
Like this, like you're asking is that this is an impossible thing to do, but it's very easy.
Yeah, so
in the specific hypothetical that was given, you simply point to, hey, they're using a criteria that leads to unjust outcomes. That is not a populist statement that I just made, and yet it addresses the point. And I think that people, people can just see that, and it's just manifestly true. And then you argue this in the marketplace of ideas, you get people behind you to make the votes and impeach this racist president, Joe. And
so how do you go after the racist president without going after the racist president?
Hold on. Going after a specific individual does not necessarily it's not a necessarily populist thing. Going after a specific individual, like the Koch brothers, for example. That's what people was going after earlier, right?
This is why I took issue with your definition from the beginning, because it's not just people are angry at a person or a thing equals populism.
Never said that. But you don't listen, so it's fine.
All right. No, I'm sure that I'm the one who's the problem here, not this very bizarre hypothetical. What's the problem we're even solving for here?
Okay, Tali, think of an issue that, like, okay, can you get, how about this? Let's start with from you, okay? Can you give me an example of like something that has we've gotten here because of populism?
I don't think I understand the question.
Okay.
Is there anything in America that pushed us forward that was populism?
Bad, and there's plenty of examples of why populism is bad. Do you have what's an example that of when you talk about why populism?
Perhaps you want to like supply an example here. I don't know what you mean.
No,
I think populism is bad because people believe lies and conspiracies.
Just real quick, because we have people who have to go. I want to give the mic to Soy Pill to have his outro so that he can just dip when he wants to. So tell people your closing thoughts on this, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nothing's really changed. We just jumped all over the place. I think I think something that these silly arguments that we got into does indicate is that there are populist rhetorics that I really don't like. I think that populism can do a lot of harm. I can totally agree with the idea that these thought terminating, bureaucracy bad, government bad, establishment bad, this stuff is not good. Unfortunately, there are going to be people that try to capitalize on this kind of bad thought terminating cliches, like the super far left movement, I think does this. Trump does this. And I think you need to be able to capitalize on the grievances and maybe even use populism, but you need to be able to educate people, like Dev said, into the correct practical positions. Basically, what I'm saying is we need more centrists.
Boom! $20 from AK Batozai. It's coming up. Thank you for being here, Soy Pill. You can follow, like, if you don't know who he is, I don't know where you've been.
Don't know
He's
who I
blowing
am.
up, but link to his channel is my YouTube description. You can stay as long as you like, but I know you have a hard out soon. So
Yeah, I got to skedaddle. I'm just going to address my chat, guys. Good to talk to you. I was not nearly so mad as I thought I would be at anyone here, and I love you all. And have a wonderful weekend.
Are you
And
still
I'm going to
banned
go
on Twitter?
wipe all. Huh? Sorry.
Are you still banned on Twitter?
I actually got unpermabanned. So
Okay.
it turns out there's a
project I'm
secret
working on.
set of words. There's like a code phrase you can say to them, and I'm not even joking, that they will unban you. If you show them the actual reason you shouldn't be banned, absolutely not a deal. But if you talk about free speech and the left wing hate mob, you're back, baby. So
Yeah, I have a project that I'm working on. Why don't you include it in it? I'll send you a DM then.
Okay. Also, I refuse to take part unless you fix your screen, because right now I'm just using it for to put my chat where half of your camera should be, and I don't know why you never have a full camera. This always OCDs me.
Makeshift setup for tonight. I had a makeshift setup for tonight.
No, but this has happened before. I know. We'll get you a camera. All right. Well, nice talking to you. Thank you, Wick. I'll talk to you guys later.
always a pleasure.
Yes.
Okay, man.
Bye.
Okay.
The
Back
ultimate
to
centrist
it.
right there.
Okay.
Back to it. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. I do want to try. I do want to try again. So like Tali or Rick. Okay. Either one of you. Like, can you give me
I'll
an
let Tali go.
example? Can you give me an example of like a specific issue we are facing right now that is as a result of populism?
Yes, I can.
Can we speed it? Okay, go Wick. Yeah.
Anti-vaxxism. That's a populist thing that we have
Anti-vaxxism is
dealt with
nice.
in America now, and to a much greater degree than we have before, even though anti-vaxxism has always been a thing. But I think we would all agree it's been turned up to 11 by populists who say you can't trust the pharmaceutical companies and those evil FDA people and those evil doctors, big pharma, all these things. They're corrupting the system. You don't need to take these vaccines. They're just implanting the chips in you. Like, what was his name? Bill Gates put the chips in there and it's going to kill you and all these things. That's a populist thing. It was rode on a wave of populism, and that is why we have that problem.
All right, cool. So now coming back to kind of what Joe was indicating towards, we have a president has RFK Jr., Raccoon Penis himself, in this is the guy who's supposed to lead us out of the next pandemic, okay? And just in general, the Trump administration has been hinting towards being open to this kind of rhetoric, kind of anti-vax rhetoric, okay? Well, Maha movement, all of that. Now, I just want you to think of an example. Let's say, I know this like hantavirus thing isn't like, whatever. I'm not going to use that as an example, but let's say we do end up in a pandemic where a very reliable way of getting out of the situation is vaccines, okay? But you have the administration, have the HHS just still going hard in on their anti-vax movement. Now, if you were to want to combat that, how could you do that without at some point invoking some kind of populism?
I don't see how populism is required in that scenario at all. You try to restore faith in institutions. You push for more transparency.
The institutions are.
You
Hold on,
push
just
for
real
more
quick, Joe. You're clicking. I don't know what you're clicking, but it's.
I'm seeing it too. I'm working on to figure out where it's coming from.
The call is coming from inside the house. The institution is the one pushing the anti-vaxxing. Now what?
So how does populism fix that at all?
Yeah, I'm asking you. How do you get out of that without populism? No, don't put the question back on me. I'm asking you, how
If
do you get out of that without populism?
But I'm not just putting the question back on you though, because it's the core of the question. Your question infers that obviously you're going to need to use some type of populist rhetoric to get out of that. So I'm asking, like, what populist rhetoric even gets you out of that? And listen, it's a fair enough question. How do we get out of this? I don't know. If I
Okay,
had that
running a
answer,
can.
I
Okay,
might be very rich right now because we're
okay.
in this scenario like literally right now. But ideally,
Run.
you try to restore faith in our institutions.
Yes, but the okay. Again, and I'll answer your question. Okay, I'll answer the question I asked.
Okay.
The faith in the institution has been demolished. They're not going to suddenly believe the HHS if they just suddenly flip their switch and say, actually, we should take the vaccines. Please take the vaccines now, guys. They're not going to do that, right? What's going to happen? I'm just saying, this is not even me pushing for it or being a proponent of it in any way
Sure.
whatsoever. What's going to happen is people are going to get mad enough where they protest. Like, let's say there's a midterm coming up or something like that. There will be a politician that arises out of this rhetoric that says, we need to take back control of the country. We need to get scientists back into these institutions. We need to get these stupid fucking ignoramuses out of the HSS and actually push science. That is what's going to
It's not
happen.
populism.
That is
That's not
absolute.
populism.
That is Callie. That is
Okay,
absolutely.
then obviously we're just gonna go back and
Then you
disagree on the
don't know
definition
what
because
you
I don't
don't know
see
what
how
populism
is
is.
your hold on. No. Oh, I'm sorry. I think you don't know what populism is then
That
because
is
you're saying
absolutely
we need to get
I'm saying the
doctors back in here.
institution.
You are literally saying
Yeah.
we need to get
We need to
yes, you're
restore
saying
faith
We
in
need to
the
get the
institutions
elites back in
because
positions of power. That's what you're
exactly,
saying,
no,
I see.
exactly. It's like
the
literally
elites
the
in position of
opposite.
power are killing us. The elites in position of power are currently killing us. That is
The
that
problem
is the
is we don't
rhetoric.
have it. Hold on, stop,
How
all
are
of you.
you?
The problem, hold
How are
on,
you?
stop.
How?
The problem right now is that the elites are not in power. The
Oh my
elites have been
God,
kicked out of
Vic,
power, and now we have the populists in charge of these
Experts. You could
Vic,
say
institutions,
the
I'm not even
and they are
Vic,
experts or something.
Vic,
unable
Yeah.
Vic,
to
Vic,
properly
please,
run these
Vic,
institutions.
please
And
don't flip to
by
chapter 6. Please don't flip to chapter 6. We aren't even past chapter 1. Please don't flip to chapter 6. I'm
you're
asking
saying
you.
flip to chapter
I'm
6.
asking you. I'm asking you. You're talking about
There's
the
a
governance. You're
contradiction.
talking about the
Face
governance.
beans.
I'm
Hold on.
asking you.
Let me try
asking
to
you about
engage.
how do you get
I'm
Okay,
telling
pause for a
you.
second. Hold on.
without
Wait. Let me
engaging in
try.
populism?
The issue that I'm taking with your characterization of this as populism, there's a few, but one, there's a contradiction inherent in what you're saying because you're saying the way to win it back is to corral some type of pop. Hold on. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep
You are not
breath. You're
listening.
saying you're to. I'm literally trying to repeat it back to you, so I don't know how you would even know if I'm listening or not. You're
Go
saying that
ahead.
the solution would be a populist movement by the people, by a charismatic politician who's saying these elites currently in power, the Trump elites, are killing us and are making us sicker and dumber, and so we need to restore faith in these institutions and put doctors and trustworthy people back in charge of these institutions. First of all, again, this is literally a counter populist messaging because it's talking about restoring elites and experts into the field. But that's number one. But number two, you're presupposing that you're going to be able to redirect that populist energy. The populist energy is the anti-vax energy. It's not the people saying, "Oh, we wish we could bring the vaccines back." You would need to find a way to create that type of energy to counter the actual populist energy which led us here in the first place.
Holly, again.
Why do you
I am
presuppose
saying,
that
okay,
there's
I
the
am saying,
populist
no,
push?
listen, okay, now listen, because again, it is abundantly clear that you have missed a very crucial part of what I am saying. I am not a proponent of this. I am saying it will
That doesn't
happen.
matter. I'm not accusing you of being a
Wait,
proponent
then
of it or
why
not.
you just literally?
I'm
you
saying there's
just
a
literally- you
contradiction
literally
inherent in
said-
what you're
no,
saying
you
will
literally
happen,
said,
whether you
no,
want it to or not.
No. You can't. If you can't engage in the hypothetical, it's okay. What I'm trying to say is that this is
Yeah,
an
no, this is a me
example of
problem.
yes, it is absolutely an
Yeah,
example
it
of
is.
something that is going to happen.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to come up and say, these people are killing us. These people with their policies, and they're pushing them on us. We are dying because of this. Quick, please. Please tell me you can
Wait,
see this happening.
I
Please tell me you can see this
can
happening.
can I
Please,
oh
give a
my
I'm
god.
closing? I gotta
appealing
go. I gotta
to the
go as well.
Okay, Gibbs has to go. Let's
brain
gonna
cell in you.
I'll let you ask me again, but I'll let Gibbs give his outro. Go ahead, Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me. This has been, I don't know about the best conversation I've ever had, but it's been an
Yeah.
interesting conversation. Yes, I'm sitting here listening to all these things saying, and like, I'm glad that I get invited to these some mainly left leaning panels because it's very interesting to see y'all's minds. Like, I feel like y'all are in a state of like denial about what's happening, right? Like, I'll bring up
What?
something, and it's like we live in two different worlds. Like I said, the fraud stuff. Like, if you don't believe there's some sort of fraud happening nationwide, okay. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody can see it. There's a reason why people feel disenfranchised with this shit. The average person's not as dumb as like the chronically online want to think they are. And I'm sitting here on these panels. I love coming here because I'm now looking forward to the midterms more than ever. Wick is over here giving grand predictions about the Republicans never getting back in power, while Polly Market saying the
MAGA
Republicans now.
specifically.
MAGA. Okay, well, regardless, they're saying that hey, the prediction markets are now reporting Republicans are favored to hold one seat at the end of the time, a majority. And this is crazy because before they were getting mollywopped, but now it's good stuff. And I for one am excited to see this new gold in America and the links of like logic backflips that the leftists can continue to go. So thanks once again for having me so that I can experience these in real time, Wick. And as always, and if you like what I have to say or hate it, Admiral Gibbs everywhere. Thank you so much, guys.
Check him out, gang. Thanks for being here.
Gibbs.
$20.
Gibbs,
Till next time, y'all be good.
No
get
fucking way.
get
I
some
love you.
greens in
Bye.
you, buddy. Can't be slop
Bye-bye.
every
I
day.
eat greens every day. I
Can't
love
be
this.
You
slop
guys
every
can roast
day.
it. Maybe I'll have an
Can't be
ice
slop
beans
every day.
versus Gibbs roast off. I don't know.
Absolutely
$20
not. I
from
will
no
say
fucking
so.
way. $20 from no fucking way. We'll do it on YouTube only. CDC exempted themselves, forced others to lose their jobs if they didn't get stabbed. It's impossible to trust an institution that wants to impose something on the population but won't impose it on itself. And 19. Thank you for the $20, I suppose. I do not co-sign what you just said, however. Ice Beans, you're not going to like this, but I'm with Tolly on this one. I think Tolly's correct here. I think
Think
Wick
that
it's
and
not a
Tolly, we're
populist.
so
You think
back,
it's
guys.
you
We
think
are
it's
so
you think
back.
okay, wait. So you're seriously telling me that somebody who comes up out of this scenario you've accepted so far, and the way that they are phrasing what they want to do, or the way that they are capitalizing on their power, is specifically they are saying the people in charge right now are killing us. You're saying that's not populism, or am I misunderstanding what you are trying to tell me?
Okay. So I'm saying that simply pointing to a person or a group of people who are in power and outlining the ways that they have failed is not necessarily populism. That is my point. Populism creates a narrative that they are this elite group who
Huh?
that is the reason that we are
Ice
being
beans. Wait,
destroyed.
let me build a bridge. Let me build
Go
a
ahead.
bridge. I think there's like a few rhetorical devices that could be thrown into your example, because the more you flesh it out, Ice Beans, I really do see where you're going with this. And so I think like had you said that the populist response to the anti-vax movement is going to be, the everyday people saying they're killing us because they want to ensure more Americans die so that they have more pieces of the pie for themselves. It has to the populist rhetoric has to demonize in some way the sort of elite or powerful
There is a
target, and they have to accuse them, accuse them of nefarious means or
Okay,
ends.
wait,
So
wait.
if that's
Even
what
if
you're
I were
saying,
to
then
wait,
sure, that would be
Tally, even if
populist.
okay, look, I don't agree with that, but just for the purposes of getting an answer, like or getting somewhere with this, let's say I agree that there needs to be all of those. Wait. Let's say that I agree there needs to be all these things in order for this to be classed as populism. I will give that to you. Okay, let's just pretend that is the case. Now,
Well,
that is
because
a
do you see
populist.
Wick's point? Do you see Wick's point that essentially just literally criticizing people in power who are failing because they're incapable, incompetent, whatever
That is
reason,
this is
pointing
the
to
us
people in
versus
power who are
them.
failing is not yes, but that's not populism, which again is why I
Okay.
disagreed from the jump with
Yes.
the us versus them definition
Okay,
of
it's not just
populism,
us versus
because
them. I'm literally giving you
criticizing
everything you want. I'm literally giving you everything you want. And are you still saying that is not a populist movement?
Well, I'm conceding to what you're saying. Yeah. So if they're
Okay, so then
demonizing and saying that like
okay, so
RFK wants to murder all of you
okay,
so
all
that he
right,
can line
cool.
his
So
pockets, that would be
that is something.
populist
Okay,
rhetoric. Yeah.
that is something that will happen. And when those people
I don't think that will.
inevitably win, or whatever the fuck, maybe we all die out. But let's say in the case that they do win, okay. My question is, how would you give me an alternate reality in which we get back in power and restore faith in these institutions without invoking that thing that I just said?
Yes, it's
How?
very easy. You say, okay, we had the elites in charge. You have doctors should be in charge of deciding people how the country does its healthcare, not the common man. That is
Okay.
oh my God, I'm engaging with your hypothetical
Okay.
just because I use slightly different terms
No,
and words. You are
Vic,
hold on.
Vic,
You asked me what is
Vic.
the solution other than
Yes.
this. I
Okay,
give you
that is
something
the
other
same
than
thing.
this. Then you
And no, that
complain
is not.
that I'm
No,
using words
it's
that you
because
didn't.
I'll tell you
Obviously I
why.
am, because
It's
in order
because
to give you
Like,
something that you have
Vic,
not said, I
Vic,
have to use different
Vic.
words.
No, Vic,
Yes,
you
that
don't.
has to be.
Populism,
That is a
populism,
necessary condition for answering your
populism
question.
isn't always about common man
I
versus elite. There can be
it
doctors that are common men. Do you think there's like some middle class where that's what doctors are?
the common man does not exist.
What are you
that is one of the
saying?
reasons that
I'm gonna kill
populism
myself.
doesn't work.
Oh my
Is
god.
because
Okay,
Wait.
it's
so
always
Okay,
saying
wait. Can
we're
I?
the
Wait,
real
I'm gonna
people
try one more
and
time.
they're the
I'm gonna
fake
try one
Can
more
I?
people.
time.
Can I?
I'm
Can
gonna
I go
try
back
one more
to?
time.
Can I go in? Can I jump in, please?
Go ahead.
After
Please.
after I read my super
Okay.
chats, you can. $2 from my
Sure
listening
thing.
library to say I Wick TV am a woman.
You're far. You're
Thank
far
you
from
for
Mike.
the $2.
You're far from Mike.
Yeah,
Oh,
get it
Bring
in there.
$1 one gifted Wick TV membership from Shapingro. Thank you, Shapingro. $2 from Gelatinous Rube to say I can see you thinking it, and $2 more from Gelatinous Rube to see I can see her saying no, and I can see you thinking it. Thank you for the $2. Now you can go, Joe.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked you about like the black president analogy, like the black president who only has a cabinet of black people because of a black agenda, that inequality is not inherently unjust. Injustice emerges by defining why it's unjust. So, for example, when we're talking about an us versus them, the them in this hypothetical that I laid out to you are people who would argue racism. This is wrong. This is unjust because of racism. This is unjust because of X, Y, and Z. So that's a thing that's required when we're trying to talk about populism. It's the constitutive opposite. When you have something, for example, like gender inequality is not inherently unjust in the world. It only emerges as unjust when you apply something like equal rights. If you argue that rights among people, regardless of their identities, ought to be equal, then inequality amongst genders is unjust.
But
So when you're building a group to going against something that you don't like, you're going to need to have some type of common ground. So the thing that I'm not quite sure about in the hypothetical when I asked you is that how do you go against injustice without a common ground against the injustice?
how do we go injustice without a common ground without against the injustice? I
Yes.
don't necessarily think that having a common ground with people against an enemy is necessarily populist. This is the fundamental disagreement we're having. I am saying that we
Like
can
there's
look
so
at
many
people.
theorists that disagree with you. So
Okay,
why are they all wrong?
depending on how
Then
they
everything is
disagree.
populism. Then like
Probably.
literally
No, oh my
Everything is
goodness.
every contest
Not
between a
every-
Democrat and
is
Republican.
I cannot think
no.
of an issue that is not populist under that framing.
No. So the thing that populism gets
Give
correct,
me a non-populist issue.
a non-populist issue,
Yeah, under that framing.
under what framing?
Under the framing of if there is a common ground among people to tackle an antagonist,
building
it
up the
is therefore
infrastructure in your
populist.
community.
Give me
Building up
Roads.
the
oh my
infrastructure in
god,
your
you guys
community.
can't answer my
Well, no,
question.
I'm
Potholes.
answering your questions.
Potholes.
Yeah, potholes. Building up the
Yes,
infrastructure in your
potholes,
community.
common enemy, the
Potholes is not
antagonist, the
populism.
common people, everyone's against potholes. We build commonalities. So
You
yes,
are
no matter
ridiculous.
No, but you
what,
can't.
You
But
do
but
not
how? But the pothole is not an injustice. That's not a pothole
It's
existing is
very
not
unjust to my
injustice.
car's carriage, right? The undercarriage.
Okay, cool. It's not an
It's very good.
injustice that somebody is wreaking on you. Of course, potholes could become a populist issue
Potholes
if
are
you
a
have
natural occurrence in road construction. They will naturally emerge. A natural emergence is not populism.
or neglected infrastructure.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
we're
Now, if you were
talking
to
about just we're
say,
just talking
yeah,
we're just like we've given you an answer. You have three.
yeah, but your answer, I do not find it sufficient because I can paint a narrative
what's
where, yes,
missing?
Sure,
What's
but
that is
that's
an
not
missing?
what we're
antagonist,
going.
and you need
We're
common
not
ground to
okay. But
tackle it.
okay,
It
yes,
fits your
Wick,
definition of
Wick,
populism.
Wick.
No,
You're
the
saying
thing
it's
that
not
I
Listen,
said,
populism,
this
but
is
under
the
no,
your
the thing
problem.
that I
definition,
No, this is
said,
it
the
is.
problem. No, this is the problem though.
oh goodness.
Yes, if you take any topic way to a populist spin off of it,
No,
that
I
doesn't
understand that.
mean
That's not what I'm
that does
saying.
okay, okay,
That's
then
not
what
what I'm
are you
saying.
saying?
That's not what I'm
You're
saying.
but
That's
that's
not what
no,
I'm
but
saying.
that's
I'm gonna
what you're
repeat what I've
saying.
said
You're
so
saying
you can
that's what
listen.
we're saying.
No, you're still talking. This is why you don't understand what I'm saying, because you keep talking and I'm
Damn.
trying to
I
answer you.
understand what you're
Okay?
saying.
I don't think you do. The reason that I take issue with your answer of potholes is I think that potholes fit, fit the definition that Joe gave of populism, where there is an
I
antagonist,
never,
which does not
I,
have to be a person, which can change, right? It doesn't have to be a specific group or a specific person. It can be an issue, it can be a different groups of people. And you find common ground with people, right, in order to tackle that antagonist. Is that not your
no,
definition of populism?
no, you're missing a thing. There's
Okay,
two
then
things that
tell
you
me the thing
need.
I missed.
There's two things. There's one thing. First thing, right? This is going to involve many people of different social categories. So I want to preface that as I say this.
Don't make it
What
too
makes
highbrow. Apparently, it can't penetrate.
populism involves a constitutive opposite and the argumentation that communicates that this inequality equals oppression or unjustness. I said oppression, you didn't like that, so we can reframe it to injustice. It says injustice, it says the same thing. A pothole as a natural recurring phenomenon is not an injustice. Now, if you are appealing to a government and it's like this natural phenomena exists, this natural phenomena is increasing inconvenience, can you please fix this natural phenomena? And then there's a bunch of different entities. It could be the government, it could be a private contractor. They're collectively saying no in some aspect. Then there's different levels that you could potentially argue because the opposite is being constructed. An opposite is constructed through the articulation, the communication that whatever the inequality that you are looking at is oppression, is injustice. So, in the analogy that I gave about a black president with an all black cabinet, how do you tackle a problem like that without a constitutive opposite, without pointing to a collective identity against a thing? And it
Because
doesn't
you can
seem like you quite understand that, like, that doesn't exist. We're
it,
always going to
I'm
have an
I'm
us
giving you
versus
the
them.
answer. I gave you
It's
the
not,
answer. I don't know why you don't accept my answer. What is wrong with the answer of, in order to combat racism such as that, is to
you need
point out,
racism. Racism must exist. That's the injustice. It's unjust because of racism. You can't use racism for your argument. How do you solve it without racism?
how do I
That
solve it without racism?
by
How do you solve
identifying
without
racism, you're
invoking
Without
pointing
using
to
racism?
an
racism?
yes. Without
Yes.
invoking the concept of racism, how do you solve the problem? Racism is constructing an opposite. It is unjust because of racism, not because racism isn't just.
I don't think that all racial issues are populist. Do you?
No, but
That's
he's
not the
saying in a
question.
very specific. He's saying in this very
Okay.
specific
No, you
example
have
where
to, in
race is
order
being
to deal with
wielded.
that problem, you have to identify
Inequality,
the problem, which is racism in that.
inequality does not inherently equal oppression. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but using and
Okay,
taking
great,
a
great, great.
criteria and
So if
saying,
I were to say,
"Oh, you're not gonna let me answer?" Okay.
go for it.
Sure. So, right? The reason that in this case it is oppression or injustice or whatever, unfair. I like unfair as a term, is it's
Mm.
because it's looking to a category on a person that does not is not necessary to achieve the result that you want. And in so doing, that it is disenfranchising large amounts of people who might otherwise be even better at the role than the people you got. So what
How
you're
do you
doing
know
is you're
that?
trading competency in
You
order.
don't know that. That's all speculative.
That is all speculative.
You are speculating that other
I
people
don't
would
think
be
I
better in the
am.
role. You
I'm
cannot
thinking that the
substantively prove
chances
that.
of me being correct in this are not 100%. I'll agree with you, but they are so high because
But I'm within an
the
institution. This
criteria.
institution confirmed all of these people. All these people, these different institutions prove that these people are competent. They just also happen to be black. And now you were saying that there's groups of people who would like follow through anyway. How do you work that out?
Sure,
How do
because I
you
know that the criteria that you're looking for does not point to competency, it points to identity, and therefore there is a very
but
high
they made it through the
likelihood that
process.
people who were more competent might have been in
They
that
were there.
spot had you targeted the right metrics. What you're doing
So
is you're
even if
looking
they
at
were
the
all
wrong
confirmed,
metrics,
like
and you might also still
Wait, how
get
do you
competent
Wick,
people,
even
but the
if they
question
were
find
is,
out
all
are
the
you getting the
confirmed,
injustice?
most
How
competent?
do you point
Wick,
out the
Wick,
injustice?
how do you
How do you
point out the
point out the injustice?
injustice
By pointing
when
out the
the
criteria they're using is not selecting for what they say that they want to select for, which is
it's speculation there. You're being conspiratorial. You were
no, it's not.
saying that
Hold
me
on.
as the
First of all,
president,
conspiracies are
you were
not always
saying
wrong.
me, you were
Second of all,
saying, oh my
no,
goodness.
it's
Wait,
pointing to criteria.
Wick,
I
Wick,
don't understand
wait.
how you're not understanding
you're an
this.
institutionalist. You would agree with the institution. You would say that, hey, this black president picked these black people to be in his cabinet. He had a black agenda and articulated that. He went through the process of confirmation. They all got confirmed, but now it's unjust because there
Are
might
you under
be
the
other
impression that
people.
because I believe in institutions that I believe institutions are infallible and always correct?
I'm
Okay.
saying that if you
Now,
believe that it
wait.
is,
No,
go
go
for it.
off of that point, Wick. Go off of that point. You know that the institutions are not correct.
In
Okay?
this
Well,
case,
How would
yes.
you? Okay, in this case, you know that the
Hold
institutions
on, guys.
are not
I gotta
correct.
go have dinner. I'll see you later. Okay.
Dev,
Alright.
do you want to give an outro or closing thoughts?
We need you, Dev.
Thanks for having me here, Wick. Not the conversation I prepared for, but it is what it is.
Here we
I
are.
guess I'll see you for the next one. Okay.
Okay, talk to you later, buddy.
See ya.
Hey, Dev.
Oh, Wick, you know that the institutions are not correct here.
Mm-hmm.
How would you galvanize the people without specifically invoking the fact that this administration has made like choices along racial lines without invoking the racism? How do you do it?
I think you have to
Why
invoke the
can't you
racial.
invoke
Okay,
that?
all right.
Yeah, why
Okay, no,
can't
no, 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 no. No, I just wanted to. That's all we
progress.
wanted to. That's
Okay,
again. This is
but
chapter
how are
one.
you getting to populism from that?
Okay, now listen.
Because
Here's
when you were arguing rhetorically as to why this is unjust, you use racism as your argument. You could use racism as your argument. You could appeal to the documents so that, hey, this president clearly articulated that he wants a black agenda and is only targeting black people. Despite the fact that he went through the confirmation process and all these people made it through, the exact process as of which he selected the individuals were racialized and we're trying, and because of equality and our framing of equal rights and equal opportunity, then it should be the responsibility of the president to ensure that he's giving the equal opportunity towards those candidates. That's how I would argue it. I disagree with my own hypothetical. I would fight it under the framework of equal opportunity, equal rights, and equal injustice through equality.
so
That's how
how
I
is
would
that
argue
Which
it.
one
populist?
of those things that
How
you
is
just
that
said do you
inherently
believe is
populist?
populism?
no following up
Yes.
on that. No, okay. My
Can
understanding of
you
what
answer
Joe.
one of my questions before you go? Ice
Yes,
beams.
I'm about
Which
to
one
answer.
of those is
Yeah, I'm about
populism?
to
It's a
answer.
simple
No, I'm
question.
about to answer
Equal
the
rights,
question.
equal opportunity. Which one of
No,
those is
I'm about to.
populist
Okay, hold on. I'm about to
in
answer
your
the
mind?
question. The thing that Joe just said, that is a strategy. That is not necessarily the winning strategy. What I am saying, because I don't think any of those were specifically in and of themselves populism. Okay,
Then we
now
agree.
here, yeah, no, but now listen. Now here's the part that I've not been able to get through. Now that's Joe's strategy. You know what my strategy is? My strategy is to like make a big splash and say we have fallen far from the grand, like the ideals of this country. We have allowed a president to up one person of one color to come in and make the entire cabinet black. Now, you people, are you represented right now? Do you feel represented right now? Now, you tell me which one would win.
I think mine would win
No,
because it
I'm
has
saying between the two.
historically.
No. You
Between
only
the
need to
two
pick
of us, between the two of our
between
framings.
a brown woman and a black man. Okay, go ahead. Which
I
one
did
would
it
win?
explicit. Yeah.
Like,
Which
when you say which
narrative?
one, are you
Which
talking about
narrative?
his
Yeah, no.
framing
Which
about
narrative
Yeah,
is
equal
more
his narrative
opportunity?
or
compelling?
mine? Which would
Which
be
narrative is
which
more
would
compelling?
generate? Yeah, which would be more
The equal
compelling to?
opportunity one.
You got
You
it. He's a lib.
you're
He's a lib. I purposely
hold on.
framed
You
it
asked me
liberally.
which I think
You
would be
just
more
talked
effective. I
about
answered
okay.
you. You
You just
acted like
talked
I just
okay,
said
but
that
okay,
the
wait.
moon was made of
Because
cheese.
you've been sitting here and railing against populism and the dangers of populism, how we shouldn't be using populism, telling me that my narrative would not be the more compelling one to the American public. That's
Yes.
crazy. That's
Where's the
crazy.
contradiction? What's the
That's
contradiction there?
crazy because that's no.
Well, the
Because
thing, there's no
you're
contradiction. That's
this
not the
is
right word here.
it's
So then what's the
it's
issue with
just a
Wick's
complete
response?
misunderstanding. Mine would be by and far the way I would get way more votes than Joe. Way
Hold
more
And
on.
the reason,
votes.
Between
yeah,
I'm
and what
building
makes
off. I'm
Hold on,
building
hold
off.
on.
I'm building
let me
my
deal
argument
with that
off of
for a moment.
fear.
Ice beans.
I'm
Simple question for you. Who do you think is more populist or who uses more populist rhetoric right now, currently in time? Do you think it's MAGA or do you think it's the Democratic Party?
it's
MAGA
MAGA.
without
MAGA,
question.
easy. Okay. Are they winning right now? Are they
Yes.
appealing
My
to the
God.
American public? Are
Listen,
they,
Yes.
is their
Vic,
message,
Vic,
is their
Vic,
populist message successful?
Yes.
Vic,
No,
Yes.
it's absolutely not. They're
Vic,
losing
hold on.
30 out
You
of
have to.
Vic,
You
30
got
out
to
of
hold on a
50
admit when
second.
you're
presidential
Vic,
elections.
can
You're
I
crashing out.
lambasted
You're
across the
sewing
country.
out. You're
People
sewing out.
running away
Soyfield's
from their
not here.
policies.
Your
They're
Soyfield's not
losing.
here anymore. You don't have to soy out. Okay.
I'm not soying out. I'm just giving you something that's
You're
true.
frustrated with the
Vic,
answer.
how did
The
Vic?
Democratic Party is
What
not
did?
in power.
Yeah,
Like
Vic.
you
What do you
lost.
think? Yeah. Vic? What do you think happened in 2024?
We lost an election because
Okay.
of anti-incumbency, which is a
Okay.
different
And also, wait.
situation.
Do you think there was populist rhetoric in there too?
There was populist rhetoric,
Thank you.
yes.
So now your question, nonsensical. Right now, part of the reason that the Republicans are losing is because the people in governance are proving themselves to be dog shit. And what in part is happening is
Hold on.
and
Do you think that because
no, let me
populism
finish.
won once,
Let me
that
finish.
populism is
Let me
forever going to
finish.
be effective?
No, I'm saying that right now, a lot of the drive and a lot of what Democrats are banking on, mark my words, they are banking on this. They're banking against a populist movement against the people in power currently. Yes, that is why Republicans are losing special elections. That is why we'll probably, I'm not going to say probably. I'm just saying it would be nice if we had a blue wave in November. I would very much like to make that happen. And it looks like we could have a chance of that happening because of partly
No,
because of populist
you are
rhetoric.
incorrect. The
It is not
threat to our
incorrect.
blue wave
Mm.
is populism. I want to
Oh
make
my
that
No,
very,
I'm
very
not
clear.
saying
Well,
okay,
let's look at
you're
the
trying to
recent.
position. No, you're running away. No, you're running
This
away
is
from the hypothetical to go back to
I'm
something
not
that we
running
all agree on.
hypothetical.
I'm not
You
saying
asked me
that.
a direct question. Which
Yeah,
do I
no.
think would be more? Hold on, let me finish before you
Oh my
interrupt me.
God.
You asked me a direct question of which of these two rhetorical styles do I think would be most effective. I answered equal opportunity,
Okay.
and then I gave you my reasoning because historically, that has what has been consistently the most
Oh, brother.
successful sort of rhetoric in American politics.
Wait.
Because you can
I-
point to a single election where that was not the case, does not negate my point, especially since we can look at the Dem establishment, which is racking up win after win after win after
You don't have
win
to do the
after
cheerleading,
win
bro.
in this
You don't have to.
environment and is
Vic.
projected to carry the House by biblical proportions, even after the
Bro.
gerrymandering that the
Are
Republicans have
preaching
engaged in.
choir.
Like, I
Preaching
can
the
point to this
choir.
rhetoric and say it's working.
We're
And
preaching the
you can just
choir.
give
Wick.
me what? What factual things can you point
Wick.
to? What data can you point to show me that I am incorrect?
No,
Quick. So
you are are you are
You're not
you're
listening to
so
what's being
you
said.
just like hyped yourself up and acted as if I'm in opposition to you. I am
Okay.
not.
I gave you specific examples,
No,
specific
listen.
data.
I'm
Please
gonna
deal
try.
with
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
try. I'm
actually
gonna
you're
saying.
try. I'm gonna
talking
try one more
past
time. No,
ice.
don't
You are
make it a
talking
data
past
question.
ice.
It's never been it's never been a data question. Okay. Don't act as if this is a win for you because suddenly you invoke data and now I'm not responding with data. We've asked you which one would be more compelling, because what we're trying to go to is chapter 3, which is where we ask you, how do you combat that? How do you actually do a movement that is not going to be so reliant on populism? Because I want what you want. I don't want populism dominate our spaces. I would like it to be where, if we use populism at all, it is strategic, it is very limited in scope, it is with the intention of putting people who can actually govern into power. And then, you know what? After that, they don't need campaign rallies. They don't need to invoke this deep state mentality even while they are in the. They don't need to do all that shit. All they need to do is be good governance. That's it.
Yeah. Like
And we can't even get
sure.
there because the whole point, the way you're fighting me on, if you don't like, this is going to be more compelling. That's just why populism is bad, is because my platform is not built on substance. His is.
Yeah.
I disagree with your
You
entire
disagree, then
premise.
you aren't
Wait,
going to be
Can I ask
capable
a
of
question?
actually
Like, let
even
me.
addressing
My,
populism.
Yeah,
That's my
I just
problem.
want to.
Wait,
I just want to make
can I
it
just ask you something?
perfectly
Like,
clear,
really,
and then you can, Joe.
sure.
I just want to make it
Gotcha,
very
man.
perfectly clear, and I don't, not so we get it twisted, that the way of doing things that I am advocating for is the way that the Democratic Party, largely, for the most part, is currently doing things, and they are winning. That's what I would say, Joe. Go
Okay,
ahead.
cool.
Okay.
I also
So
I do have to go. So
Ice Beans,
I
give
will
us your
take my.
outro, and then we'll. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, take
All
your
right.
outro. It's fine.
All right. Thanks. I'm ice_beans on Twitch and icebeans676 on YouTube. Please go follow me because I would like to get to the point where I'm actually monetized. And subscribe to my YouTube. That would be lovely. Thank you, Wick, for giving me more gray hairs today than I
You're
thought I
welcome.
would. Okay,
I'm
that
very
was
good at it.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
Joe, and Tali, I'll see y'all later. Good chat, good
Mm.
yelling.
Okay. Have
Nice
a great
chatting
day.
with
It's
you.
always a pleasure, even though you're wrong. Oh, wait, before you go, I do have a video for you. And this one's just for you, Ice Beans, and
Okay.
kind of soy pill, but he's not here. But give me a second. Let me get it up.
Are you gonna finally concede on the fact that Elon was doing
This is
Nazi
for
salute?
you, Ice Beans. It's a 30-second clip. This one's just for you. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
You got it? You looking? Ice Beans, thanks for
Vic,
coming. I'll
Vic,
see you later.
Vic,
Okay.
I'm not gonna be mean and call you a pig like Admiral Gibbs. Okay.
Okay.
But
You
I
should
will call
probably
you.
chill